Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope all of you guys had a good end to your week. We've had some sick dinner. My wife and I were gonna go skiing today. That was a weekend plan. We got so moving so far this season. But, I didn't get done with the All NBA show until, like, close to, like, 11:30, and I was pretty beat from a long week, so we decided to relax instead, and I'm very glad I did. Got a little, bit of, downtime this afternoon, which is nice, and very, very excited to watch for the first time since opening night, 2 top-tier contenders play against each other. We are going to see We saw Houston, Oklahoma City on opening night, but as you guys know, that Oklahoma City team is very established, and Houston has no idea who the hell they are. It's kind of just a weird game early in the season. I was talking about this earlier today with Adam, but it's roughly about 15 games into the season when you start to actually kind of see the teams resemble what they're going to resemble at the end of the year. And so this is just going to be our first kind of like more legitimate matchup of top tier contenders to start the season. It's also a scouting thing too. Like Oklahoma had no idea what to expect from Houston going into that game. Very, very excited for this. Both teams are playing really good basketball to start the year. Both teams have a pretty good idea of who they are. Um, Injuries, obviously Christian Brown being out, not good. But for the most part, the core players are playing. It's going to be a good look at least how these teams like to guard each other, what their pet actions will look like against each other, and the big one for me, the rebounding battle. We have the number one offensive rebounding team, who's far and away the best offensive rebounding team we've seen in a long time, going against the third ranked defensive rebounding team. So it'll be a nice little showdown between those two. How's everybody doing tonight? Jason, I want to hear your opinion on the differences between an NBA basketball and a regular everyday cheaper basketball. I will tell you this, it's very different than the type of basketballs that you'll see used at the high school level, the college level, or at your random men's leagues around town. It's weird. The last time I used an NBA basketball was back when I lived in Charlotte, and I was playing in the pro am, like that pro am that Anthony Morrow I think actually founded, and it was just kind of like a much like smoother like leather that didn't have as much. The biggest difference you'll notice is when you play with like a Wilson ball, like an Evo, or like one of their regular NCAA game balls. You're gonna feel like a texture to the ball that's softer. Like your fingers can kind of imprint on the ball a little bit. But when you touch an NBA basketball, it's like the smoothest, most worn in leather comparatively. It's a very, very different feel. It took me a little bit of time to adjust when I was playing in that pro am. It was a long time ago. That was back in 2017, 2016. Thoughts on NBA Europe? Yeah, I don't really know. I guess the idea. Here's what I like and what I don't like. I like the idea of you looking at the situation going, we're going to be able to do a better job than these random teams can do. So why not kind of run in there and take our system that we know works and build it out and see if we can't make more money on it? That makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is like NBA teams traveling over the Atlantic Ocean for regular season games. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So like I hope that they kind of like see the difference between those two kind of conflicting ideas. At least baby steps. Like at least see if you can get a league like that off the ground. And if it turns into something that makes sense to implement down the line, so be it. Jason, does Amen Thompson have top 5 player in the league potential? This one is tricky because in the same way that Shangun, we were talking about yesterday with Shangun having that type of potential, and it's just different because Shangun's been in the league for a little while. We've seen him play sustained basketball at a all NBA level now to start this season. And with Amen Thompson, he's just a few steps further behind. And it's kind of like how like when you see the hurricane track on the Weather Channel, how it like kind of has like a wider track the further it gets from the hurricane, meaning like the closer you are to whichever day they're trying to predict, the less wide their range of potential outcomes is. That's kind of how I see the difference between like a Şengün and a Men Thompson. Like Şengün's already playing at an all NBA level, and I feel like he has a lot that he can get better at. So it's pretty easy to be like 3 years from now, he's going to be competing for that top spot in the league, right? And then you flip that with a guy like a Man Thompson, and it's like he certainly has that potential. Like it's inside the track, but it's just so much wider because it's so much further down the line, and it just feels like something that is harder to predict. Now, with the Men Thompson's skill set, we always talk about in order to be a top tier superstar, you kind of have to have some sort of game breaking talent, some sort of supreme gift that you bring to the table that's really difficult to match up with. And what Amen Thompson reminds me of a little bit is that kind of John Morant combination of extremely quick first step, the ability to hit into dribble combinations and counter moves smoothly, but also the ability to pop up before the rim to make little short floaters and short jump shots, and obviously the necessary kick out reads to keep the defense honest. Like that's a foundational trait. You need to be a top tier superstar, and Amen certainly has that. The main thing is right now is Amen Thompson's doing it in bits and pieces. We're seeing little stretches of it where it's stretched out a little bit more, like that opening night stretch towards the tail end of the fourth quarter where they just kind of spammed right wing ISOs from Amen Thompson. Like we've seen that work in smaller samples, but there's kind of like a process to him building up to becoming a more high usage player, a player that's scouted more, a player that teams are going to try different types of defenders on, and then they're suddenly going to have different pieces of data. Like, oh, if we go with this kind of guy, it tends to play Amen Thompson into lesser, performances in his spectrum, so to speak. So I just think we're just further back on the Amen Thompson track, so it's harder to tell, but he certainly has that potential. Hey, Jason, do you think Jokic is suffering from recency fatigue and familiarity? I truly believe if he simply was born 30 years or earlier, he'd be known as the greatest center ever, and it's not close. I feel like, to be honest with you guys, I feel like Jokic is pretty properly rated. It's not like I'm going around talking to a lot of people that don't think he's an all-time great already, or that don't think. I mean, he's got 3 MVPs. You know how many players in the NBA in the history of the league have 3 MVPs? It's not many. And for the most part, he gets the appropriate respect in the national media. Like, I don't know of anybody that actually thinks he's not the best player in the league still. So like, I think he gets the appropriate respect. I do think that he's running into the problem that LeBron ran into in his prime, that Steph Curry ran into in his prime, where it's like, you're so great for so long, it just becomes expected, and then people start to take what you do for granted, right? And so that's where it gets a little tricky. All right, we got some basketball. Let's do this. Thank you guys all for coming to hang out on Friday. First top tier championship contender matchup in a long time. Here we go. Peyton Watson on the ball, run a little cross screen there for Jamal Murray. Turns the corner on Jabari Smith and easily gets into the paint. Strangely enough, for how big Houston is, they're a good paint defense, not a great paint defense. Like last I checked, which I believe was right before our video the other day, I think they were like 10th in field goals allowed in the paint, and 12th in field goal percentage allowed. I shouldn't say in the paint, but at the rim. They're a little bit easier to score in there than you would think for how tall they are. Jamal hits a contested three, a couple buckets early for Jamal, showing he's in rhythm. And then Thompson on the ball, little weak side screen for Durant. Nice job throwing that jab at Peyton Watson to get just that little lefty jab. Got that little bit of separation for him to get over the top of the screen, causes the dig down. Then he has an opportunity to pass out for a guy to drive a closeout. How many years do you think are left for KD in the league? That's a tough one. So much of it for him is just going to be health. But I mean, I don't think he's, I think he's got at least 3-4 years left at this, reasonably close to this level, if he can stay healthy. Şengün turns the corner on Gordon, went to his left hand there. You don't see the left hand too often from Şengün on layups. Same little action for Jamal coming off that screen at the elbow. Same kind of look that he got earlier over Jabari Smith. Misses that one. See how Jokic is sitting back to try to stop that semi-transition drive from Amen Thompson? Jokic is stepping over, so watch out for Steven Adams on the offensive glass. That's where Houston can burn you. Is if Jokic got back to Adams there, so he was able to close out the possession. But if Jokic is going to strong side zone like that, Steven Adams is going to feast around the rim. Quick screen to force a switch for Jamal. Gets Jabari Smith again. Little drop rep. Good drop off to Aaron Gordon. Gets the foul there. So as Jamal turned the corner coming off of that wide action, Gordon's man stepped up into that low man position. Jason, if you had to bet on who wins tonight, who you got? I think Houston has an advantage at this phase in the season because everyone's still trying to figure them out and they're at home. I think Denver's a really good competitive team who will keep it close all night. But if I had to guess, I'd be like coin flip leans slightly towards Houston. I think we're going to see KD play some really meaningful basketball this year, which as a basketball fan, I feel very blessed to get to see again. I hope we get the same thing with LeBron and Steph too. But if all the old guys get in, that means all the young, talented teams can't get in. So someone's going to lose somewhere along the way there. Little ram screen for Adams. Flowing into a handoff with KD. Drew Jokic up to the level, draws the foul. It's one of those ones too, like keep an eye once again. Every time Jokic steps out like that, keep an eye on Steven Adams. Either on the roll or on the offensive glass. We talked about this in our Rockets breakdown, but for those of you guys who didn't get a chance to catch that, the gist of it is like when you have these elite one-on-one players in KD and Alperen Şengün, you kind of want to shade over, right? You want to give your on-ball guy the simpler assignment of like just take away, make him uncomfortable in the mid-range so that we can have help on the backside in case you get beat. But as soon as you have that big step over, that's where Houston kills you because either Steven Adams is getting the offensive rebound or you got multiple dudes sandwich rebounding on Adams and now one of their guards is getting the rebound. Jokic post up on the left side. Little ball screen. Gets the switch onto Şengün. See if he goes to him. Nope. Gordon's going to ISO Adams. A little step back three off the right side of the rim. Again, when you're getting a switch like that, you got to beat it on one of the two sides, either in the post or the quicker player ISOing the big. All right, here we go. Little right to left cross from Amen Thompson. Good contest from Hardaway. Out in transition. Peyton Watson running his lane. Little reverse layup. Nice work from Denver. Let's see how Houston scores tonight. This is a very big front line from Denver. They don't have as much of a size advantage here. Ball screen Jokic. Watch out for Adams on the offensive glass. Jokic gets back. Good recovery from Jokic. Look at him boxing out. Great work from Jokic there. Showing at the level, recovering to Adams on the roll. Little transition cross match for Gordon. Draws the foul. So once again, he just saw Steven Adams in front of him. They call travel? Traveling violation. Okay. But what he sees there is he sees he's got Adams in the cross match and he just decides to drive. Is Gordon hurt? Is that what they're doing? Subbing him out? Or are they taking a timeout? Yeah, I think he hurt himself. That's not good. Hopefully nothing serious. Oh yeah. Oof. That's not good. Like kind of an awkward step. I wonder if it's his hamstring. Yeah, I hope it's not his hamstring or his knee. Get a too big look from Denver here. Jonas and Jokic out on the floor. Little double team with KD and a zone look up top. Good rebound from Jokic. Kick ahead to Jamal. Jamal's got Kevin, kind of dribbles out. Jokic has got Şengün on him. Let's see if they go to the block. They do. kick out off the double team. That's the double team that's gonna come when you have a too big look out there. Jonas has gotta be able to knock that down, or the double team is just not gonna stop coming. Missed that one. Good offensive rebound from Jokic. Stripped. Really nice fast break there from Houston, capitalizing on the strip. Kick ahead. No foul. I like a lot of players on the Wizards. Elias Felakifi. I don't know why they're not winning more than they have. That's always a little bit scary when you like a bunch of young players on a team and they're not winning, because usually the ones that end up transferring to new dynasties tend to rack up some regular season games. I was talking to Adam Mares earlier today about what he thought about the Tim Hardaway Jr. experience, and he said, "I like him because he's shooting 45% from three, but we'll see if he can keep that up over the course of the season." There's another one. Got that one. Too many good looks. That's a lot. That's an easy way to build a rhythm. You start giving yourself that many open looks. Denver doing some damage on the offensive glass here, guys. It's the other kind of weird thing, like for Houston, as big as they are, they're a good defensive rebounding team, but they're not a great defensive rebounding team. They're eighth in defensive rebound percentage. KD off the curl. Great rear view contest from Peyton Watson, getting over the top and getting a contest. Peyton playing some good basketball as of late. Little two-man game for Murray and Jonas. Leaves the floater short. Little two-man game, Adams and Thompson. Look at the under. See, that's really good defense from Tim Hardaway. Went under and got the contest, but Adams gets another offensive rebound. That's a tough bucket. That's a tough bucket. Payne's getting a little close too. I think KD's trying to get him into a foul here. Murray Jokic under, gets back in front. Jokic right at Şengün. Look at Şengün holding his ground. Draws the double team. Great pass to Jonas. Got to have some certain amount of offensive skill between the two, a certain amount of polish, passing, dribbling, shooting in order to make that work. Şengün, a little ISO jumper. See, he missed that. I was talking about Şengün becoming eventually a top tier superstar, and that's the kind of shot I see him getting really good at. I think he's got the kind of polish slash fluidity to eventually become a very good kind of like mid range ISO off the dribble type of dude. He just missed that one. Nice little steal and bucket, little pick six for KD. Timeout Denver. All right, I'm gonna quick cut a social media clip, guys. Give me 1 second, and then we'll take some questions. Will's over here to hate watch. Our resident Thunder fan is here to hate watch. Almost done, guys, with this social media clip. Come on now. There we go. All right. Got any questions? Any questions, guys? How would you feel if Keon Ellis got traded to the Lakers? I've seen his name floating around. I think he's too small. I want the Lakers to get someone that's a bigger athlete that can help them in their defensive rebounding as well. It's not that I'm not saying I wouldn't take Keon Ellis. I just wouldn't give up. To me, whoever the significant asset investment, like, okay, we're attaching a pick or like we're giving up all of our expirings and we're like really going all in on a player, it kind of has to be um, I think it has to be that like bigger athlete type of archetype. I think a smaller guard needs to be more of a trade of convenience. Najib says, Jason, I feel like it's a big jump to assume Shangun will be 50% from mid range and 55% on floaters and 60% on hooks. I don't. I think the bigger part of that is not actually the ability to make the shot like that. That it's more about the ability to get to your spot. Like a lot of guys have good touch on jump shots, but just really struggle to actually get close to the basket where they can make them. They lose their rhythm. They get bumped off their base. Like I think Shangun has plenty of touch. The exciting thing is that he's really, really good at getting good mid range looks and that's really the thing. If you watch KD, yeah, he makes such a huge percentage. And obviously, KD's another level. He's in like the high 50s on those mid range pull ups. But when he gets into that spot, you look at him and he's so in rhythm and he's so just separated and getting such a clean little release above the defense. You can just kind of tell it looks like an easier shot for him. Capella in the middle of the floor against Jonas leaves it. I think he got blocked. A little bit of a risky kick ahead to Peyton Watson there. Goes out of bounds. Bruce Brown into the game. Shingun running point for Houston. Jonas sagging off of Capella. Run a little Chicago action with Capella as the handler. KD comes off. Jabari Smith, little right shoulder fade. That's nice work. He just strong armed it a little bit. Looked very balanced on that. That's an example of what I would consider to be like an easy mid range shot. Just missed that one. Jokic catches Capella a little too far back. A little quick transition screen from Capella. Hardaway's done a good job doing his job, just making sure he doesn't get comfortable in the mid range and funnel him to the big. Jokic absorbs contact from Shangun. Little face up here at the top of the key. Little step back. Ooh, he just barely missed that one. That's a good look, though. That's a really good look. Ooh, a couple of high risk passes from Jokic, a couple turnovers, both trying to feed Watson. Jokic is strong side zoning, so watch out for Capella on the glass. Up the lob. Oh, he missed it. Kick ahead. Watson. Draw. I thought he was going to get a foul there. Gets into KD's body. KD backed off at the last second. Good bucket for Denver. Houston struggling on offense here with the too big look from Denver. Look at the pressure they're applying there at the elbows. See how Tim Hardaway just keeps going under, and the men can't attack because there's Jonas waiting on the other side. Kind of a forced interior pass there to Capella. Ooh, good take from Payne. Got the foul that time. Houston really struggling to score here. They're gonna have to hit some shots over the top. Like one of the other things too is like why you don't want to turn the ball over there. If you get a shot up on the rim, even if it's a mediocre jump shot that you end up missing, you at least give your team a chance to get an offensive rebound. But one of the things with this Denver lineup is they're just so damn big that there's not as much of a rebounding advantage if you can't engage one of the bigs. But turnovers certainly aren't going to give you a chance at an offensive rebound. And it says the Bulls are the most Jekyll and Hyde team in history. Let's see what they did tonight. I haven't checked any of the scores yet tonight. Getting their ass beat at home by the Heat. Holy hell. Suns are on the hunt for a signature win after playing a pretty light schedule over the last couple of weeks. That'd be a big one, getting Minnesota controlling them like that. That'll be an interesting one to watch. Brooklyn beating Boston in Boston. I'm sure Celtics fans are not handling that well. Reed Shepherd checks into the game. Nice little dig down from Bruce Brown. It's always high risk to dig down from the strong side corner, and that's a pass that Reed's got to make. But the risk pays off that time. Jokic has got is that Koji on him over that right there? Spin into the double. Reed Shepherd comes from behind, doesn't get it. Timeout, Denver. Are the Raptors actually good? I do think they are. Obviously, it's always really hard to tell until you see them get like one of those measuring stick games against one of the truly great teams in the league. But I do think that they're legitimately good. Like for instance, I think the Raptors are better than the Heat. Um, Ellie by the Bay has an interesting point. She says, he says, I really like the he or she says, I really like the Heat coming out of the East. Is that a crazy take, especially when they get Harrow back? To me, one of the fundamental differences, because I was talking about this earlier today, and I've seen it in the chat from the, Heat fans a bunch, like, oh, you underestimated us in previous seasons, and we made to the finals twice, and we are consistently in the conference. Yeah, you had Jimmy Butler. You had a player on your team that legitimately could stare eye to eye with the very best players in the world and like alpha dog them. Like he alpha dogged Jason Tatum in a playoff series. He alpha dogged Giannis Antetokounmpo in a playoff series. Like there's just not that top end upside with with this particular iteration of the Miami Heat team. It's still very fascinating to watch as how Eric Spoelstra has maximized the talent on that team, but I just don't think they have that same upside. Locotron says, Eli, sorry, buddy, I butchered that, but thank you for the question. Locotron, the Timberwolves, to me, I was talking about them like they're in one of their phases where they look like shit. I'm not falling for it again. I'm sorry. Like they did last year, and then they made it to the conference finals again. So I think it's important for us to just kind of like not overreact to Minnesota things unless they become very long term trends. No Limit says the Raptors Heat could end up being a fun playoff series. I totally agree. That could be a really fun one. Can Şengün be as good as Powell or Joker? Probably not Joker, but I think Powell is a reasonable outcome type of guy for him. Powell, I don't necessarily like the player comps with Powell because he's such a unique type of player. But to me, Şengün, like it's a little bit of everything, right? Like I think there's like a high post kind of face up element to his game that's unique. There's a slashing element to his game that's unique. Like there's I've talked about this before, but I think Şengün has pretty high level defensive potential. I think Şengün can be a very good defender in this league, and I think he's already shown flashes of that. So like I think but he's not as big and strong as Jokic. He's not as good as a passer as Jokic. Obviously, he doesn't have the otherworldly touch that Jokic has. Like to me, Şengün getting into the high 50s, low 60s on hooks would be a win. Jokic has been in the mid 60s, high 60s, sometimes low 70s with that kind of stuff. So like there's levels to this kind of thing, and they're all different basketball players that have their own kind of unique flair. And Şengün's kind of got his unique flair. The stuff that I like with Şengün is that extra layer of athleticism, a little bit more recovery, mobility, and length, and a little bit more of that like I'm going to slash and dunk on your head kind of stuff. It's Hunter says, am I crazy for thinking Şengün is more of a natural four? If he keeps shooting the basketball as well from the 3-point line, it's not that he's a natural four. I think he's naturally a 5 in a small ball group, but it's a versatility thing. He's got a versatility to play both positions, which I think is an upside with him. So Neil McBeal says, despite being unathletic, Jokic has a level of quickness I don't see with Şengün. There's like a more advanced level of footwork. Quickness is probably the wrong word. It's more just like like a quick to strength corollary where like Jokic will barely get you out of position and blow through you because he's so strong, whereas Şengün needs to get more separation because he's not as strong. Jabari Smith getting some token ball pressure from Bruce Brown. Good job navigating it. Makes the post entry to Capella. Although, look, it got all that pressure, forced him a little bit out of position. Jokic is at the level. Watch the offensive glass. Jokic gets back. Good box out. Jabari Smith ended up getting in there, but, Denver holding up reasonably well on the offensive glass here early. But again, look, so on that one, Houston actually gets a shot up on the rim, and Jabari Smith ends up having a really good chance for an offensive rebound. Bruce pinning down for Jokic, gets a decent look. Capella closes out at him, gets separation, little bank shot, just barely misses it. Good rebound. No foul, good defense. There's that interior defense from Houston showing up. Jokic gets another rebound and draws a foul. Wow, Denver's doing damage on the offensive glass. Look at Peyton Watson keeping that alive too. Jokic misses the free throw. Spencer Jones was carved out a reasonable little spot in this rotation. Kind of reminds me of like what Guy Santos did last year, where he's not exactly as high upside as someone like a Peyton Watson, but he's just really, really solid and just does everything pretty well and plays super hard, has a high motor, high IQ. Reed Shepard brings the ball up the floor. See if Houston can break out offensively here. Look at Jokic showing Jokic is ignoring Amen Thompson. Steps up and help. Clean little look for KD in the mid range. Nice bucket. Jokic on Amen Thompson is going to be an interesting one to watch. Hand off to Bruce Brown. An under from Shepard. Nice pocket pass from Bruce and just kind of a super difficult to guard finish from Jokic there. Look at Jokic sagging off of Amen Thompson. Reed cuts into the gap, somehow catches that pass. Şengün up top against Spencer Jones. And now watch Jokic showing. Okogie's the one getting left open in the corner there. Nice finish from Reed Shepard there. That's an example, like really just high level playmaking and finishing. Even though they missed a read, there's just a bunch of good basketball players on the floor and they made something happen. Good look for Hardaway. He's off tonight. KD screens for Şengün and under from Hardaway. Ooh, nice closeout attack from KD. Gets into the lane, turns it over. Looked like he didn't have enough lift to go up for the layup. Good run out for Bruce. Wow. Denver doubling up Houston here early. Yeah, I think KD had no choice but to pass because when he planted to go up for the layup, he just like his knee must have buckled or something. He didn't get as much lift, and so he kind of had to bail out of the shot. Last attempt here for Houston. Spencer Jones applying some pressure. Şengün, look at the gaps, guys. Look at Denver in the gaps. So, did he get a foul? Nope, shot clock violation. So, guys, the thing that's standing out to me here in the first quarter is one of the problems that Houston is that Houston has caused for teams is their one-on-one guys draw so much attention that the center ends up leaving the lane and their bigs just wreck shop on the back line underneath the basket. Denver's the first team I've seen so in a long time that's been able to successfully kind of gap and shrink off of guys and make the paint look packed all the time while also consistently recovering to box out and secure the defensive rebound. Like Jokic and Jonas, both in their stretches in this game, did a wonderful job so far in the first quarter of making their shows when they need to, but then getting back and boxing out. Make a show, get back and box out. We've seen Jokic come up to the level, roughly a dozen times in that quarter without really getting beat too much on the offensive glass. And I think it's just a combination of really high. This is one of the things Denver's been great at for years. Like they're really good at like making things feel crowded while like there's actually all these open dudes, but then like those openings close quickly. And that's really the smoke and mirrors approach to being a slower, bigger defense, but containing faster teams, more athletic teams. It's all about positioning, knowing like exactly the right distance to where like I can be in the lane here, but also get out in time to make this guy feel uncomfortable. And that's you require a certain amount of high IQ with your defenders to achieve that kind of perfect balance. And again, so many teams are struggling with that help to box out. Like that's the difference in the way that Houston spaces the floor. If you're doing that with Boston in 2024, it's very much like a help versus give up an open three kind of problem. With Houston, it's a help versus give up an offensive rebound problem. And they're just doing a really nice job getting out and getting back. Mr. Lux Pick says, "Do you think Aaron Gordon's hamstring will linger?" I don't have any medical data on this. I don't have anything to back this up. But it seems to me that when a guy has a substantial hamstring injury, it tends to take a very long time to fully heal. Like we've seen so many guys like James Harden re-injured his hamstring many times. Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. We've just seen this. Like Jalen Green just re-injured his hamstring for Houston. Aaron Gordon's re-injuring his hamstring. There's a lot of like re-injury happening on those hamstrings, and I do think that that's associated with just how difficult it is to fully recover from that injury. So Three Buckets makes an interesting point. Houston is really missing Dorian Finney-Smith and Tari. Part of the issue here, guys, it's not like Houston's missing a bunch of catch and shoot threes. They're not getting a lot of clean looks. Like it's not like they're working through these gapped like Denver coverages and making quality kickouts and dudes are just smoking open threes. They're kind of struggling to get really good looks right here. What do you think about Missoula saying use the whole roster to prevent the injury problem? I think there's some truth to that, but it's a luxury. I mean, like there are a lot of teams out there that like Boston could do that in previous seasons where they could sit, one or two core rotation players seemingly every. It'd be like you'd see them and they'd be fully healthy, but like Kada would be playing, or it'd be like Horford and Porzingis would be playing, but like Jalen Brown would be taking a night off, or Drew Holiday would be taking a night off. Like they just had that flexibility. I've seen it's weird. I've seen it with the Lakers this year for the first time ever, and like in previous seasons going back after the Russell Westbrook trade for like 3-4 straight years there, it was like if a dude missed a game that was one of their core 3 or 4 players, it felt like they couldn't win. You know what I mean? And so I think Joe Mazzulla makes a good point, but at a certain point, competitively, it's just really hard to win if you don't have the necessary pieces to be able to sit core rotation players. All right, we got Spencer Jones, Jamal Murray, Jonas, Bruce, and Cam. Deep drop from Jonas, giving Reed Shepherd a clean look at a pull-up three. In ball screens coming into tonight, Reed Shepherd was 7 for 14 on pull-up threes in situations like that where a big would be in drop and the guard would either get caught on the screen or give up some separation. So make that 7 for 15 after that miss from Reed. Pin down for Jamal. Here comes Reed. Another ball screen. A little higher. Nope. Deep drop. There it is. That's the look. So we just talked about that. Now he's 8 for 16. So that's a shot that Reed has been hitting this year when you go on when you run into the screen and you leave your big way back and drop. So let's look on that next possession to see if Jonas comes up a little higher. Similarly, Steven Adams way deep in a drop. Jamal Murray misses a very similar look. Cam misses that. I want Cam to be aggressive, but jacking off an offensive rebound over your left shoulder in the mid range is not exactly what I had in mind. Şengün against Spencer Jones spins over his left shoulder. That's a foul. And again, like Spencer was just a little forward aggressive. He took like one little half step forward and he leaned a little bit. If he's just standing back with his arms up, he's got a better chance to get away with not fouling there. Very nice little bit of shot making there from Reed Shepherd. Houston getting loose a little bit here early on offense. Şengün's had that matchup with Spencer for a while. It's the first time he's actually capitalized on it. A little bit of a lane violation there, Mr. Steven Adams. Little wide double screen for Cam. He curls off. The skip was open. Jonas was kind of open on the little pop back. That's a effectively a blitz there on Jamal. Cam's been hot the last couple games, not to start this game. Little switch from Jamal. Here comes a double team from Amen Thompson. Nice little pass to Bruce in the short roll. Just misses the hook. Good rebound from Cam. Turns it over. So a couple offensive rebounds that Cam is kind of botched here. Jamal's strong side zoning. Let's see if they get to the skip. Trapped in the corner. Reed draws a closeout. Whoa, that was a wild kick out. Look at them in the gaps again, guys. What a deflection from Bruce. See that? They're gapping. The lob to Steven looked open, but there's Bruce flying over to deflect it. Another blitz of Jamal. Cam in the corner. That's a good look. Ooh. That's a decent look. Holiday's been shooting it well lately. Ooh, missed that one. When it comes to Houston, if their name's not Amen Thompson, they've been shooting it well lately. Strong side zone from Jonas. Turnover, man. Got to get something up on the rim. There's Steven Adams. There's Steven Adams on the offensive glass. If you just get something up on the rim, you just can't turn it over like that. Maybe they'll fix the scoreboard eventually because I have no idea what the score is right now. Another deep drop, pull up three, missed that one. 8 for 17 on the season. All right, I gotta check. Did you guys see the bullying worked on ESPN and they fixed the little stat bug thing? 27-16 Denver for anybody who hasn't looked up the score yet. Good back pressure from Amen Thompson, but they defended the roller with two men. That started the driving kick sequence. Nice drop off to Jonas. Nice finish. Really nice kick out pass from Jamal there after he identified that they were defending the pick and roll 3-on-2. Reed, kind of a reckless drive, kicks it out. Here we go. Spencer Jones on Şengün. Left shoulder hook. Boom. Can't guard that, guys. And we have our score bug back. Little guard screen to try to get. Bruce is like, I think you're too small, Reed, so I'm going to drive to the basket. See the communication from Bruce screaming that his man needed to be guarded, so Spencer Jones picked him up, so now Bruce is on Şengün. What a finish from Reed. My goodness. That is a tough shot, that scoop shot off the glass over Şengün. Jamal gets Aaron Holiday on a switch, beats him off the dribble, and forces it into the charge when the dunker spot was open. I think Jamal's trying to say he got around his left shoulder. Let's see. Ooh, he's sliding. That's the kind of one that you want to consider challenging because he's not really in position. You can convert an offensive foul into 2 free throws. No challenge. Wow. Back screen. That's that little shot that is Amen Thompson's next phase. Once again, get it up on the glass. You give yourself a chance on the offensive glass. There is Steven Adams. Şengün's showing way high. They're doing a lot of blitzing here on Jamal, and it's not going well for Denver. Look at Houston. Defense to offense. Offensive rebounding. A little bit of shot making from Şengün and Reed Shepherd, and they're right back in this game. Denver offense not good here. This has been Denver's bench this season. They're either winning them a game or losing them a game, and there's been very little of the in-between. Reed Shepherd has more than sneaky bounce. He's a very good athlete. He's undersized, but he's a very good athlete. Do I think LaMelo could fit with the Rockets? It's not that I think he couldn't. It's just I don't think Houston stands to gain as much from a guy like LaMelo as some other teams, and so I don't think he's the kind of guy that I would look at. He doesn't really seem to fit the personality of the team, to be honest. This is a really interesting point from Lanzetta. A men needs to develop a Jimmy Butler type of offense. That's a really interesting way to look at it. Like kind of weird angle drives to draw fouls, little bits of short range shot making, a lot of like playmaking out of face up and like post up situations. I really like that take. That like evolutionary, hyper athletic Jimmy Butler. That little extra bit of muscle mass too. Feels like Bruce was much more of a ball handler in his last stint with Denver. What do you think has changed? I think honestly, like he went away from doing it in his other destinations, and I think there was an advantage to doing it with Jokic that no longer existed. The big thing that playing with Denver makes different is the inverting of the spacing. So like Jokic is going to consistently pull the opposing center away from the basket, and that's going to make a guy like Bruce more of a downhill threat than he would be, playing in a situation next to Jakob Poeltl, for example. Propsicle says there's no way Şengün didn't foul Murray there. You're probably right, but this is what it's going to look like in the postseason. There's going to be teams kind of beating the shit out of you that with that physicality and ball pressure. Manuel says Amen is fading away a lot. He needs to actually use his physicality to get to the rim and not away from it. That's that kind of next level of like veteran scoring where like sometimes your athleticism can be a curse if you're like, I can elevate over the top of this guy and get a good look. And it's like, yeah, you can, but you can also get an easier one if you're just a little bit more savvy about it. And that'll come with him with time. Which point guard should the Rockets get? That's a really good question, man. They've looked so good on offense that it's hard to get as keyed in on that. To me, it's more just like a imagine if that Koji role was filled by like prime Marcus Smart, like 2022 Marcus Smart, where it's this like essentially a version of Josh Okogie that's like a little better shooter, a lot better basketball IQ, ball handling, playmaking ability, and just like a little bit better defensively. With how good they've been defensively with or offensively with their two-man game and with their offensive rebounding and how well everyone's shooting the ball, I like offense hasn't been as much of an issue, but just adding a little bit more of that read and react, like all around offensive skill into those lineups could make a big difference. I'm not saying you don't take a guard if it pops up, but I haven't. I'm not seeing a guard right now that makes a ton of sense with how they're playing. You don't want to mix up. You don't want to take the ball out of Kevin Durant and Şengün's hands all that much if you can avoid it. Jabari's doing a good job on Jamal. Another blitz, guys. Look at how much they're blitzing Jamal. Short roll pass from Jonas, and he airmails it. The blitzes are working on Jamal for Houston. David Adelman's going to try to get. Jokic is back. I was going to say get more shooting in, but here comes Jokic, so he's going with the full pivot. Not a good bench shift for the Nuggets. Deep drop, another little bit of shot making. Look at Reed Shepherd against the deep drop, making drop coverage shots. So he's taking what, 4 of them, and he's got 5 points. So that's 1.25 points per possession. Another blitz. Look at their spacing. Spencer Jones and Jonas standing right next to each other, and somehow it still works. Great pass. If Denver can get one more stop and one more bucket before Jokic comes in and you flip the score by 4 points right before he checks in, that undoes a good amount of the damage. Deep drop, kickback, Spencer Jones, good deflection up on Reed. This is guard screen. Jamal Murray stays home. Beautiful little crossover dribble, just misses it. Here we go. If they get a bucket, there's Bruce running the lane. What a response from Denver's bench, cutting the lead by 4 before Jokic gets back. Hand off to Bruce. Reject. What a skip pass from Reed Shepherd. Beautiful piece of playmaking there from Reed. Reed's been really good in his on-ball reps here. Bruce is wide open. Make that a 7-0 run? No, long off the back rim. Loose ball foul, staying with Denver. So they got okay, so Jokic checks in, and Denver, that last little 4-0 run undid a good amount of that damage. Addicted Lawyer says if Murray didn't have Jokic, would he be a mediocre guard at best? This is complicated because I'm a firm believer that your value as a basketball player is unique to your system. And his value, like there are many players in the league that might be better on paper than Jamal that would not be as good for Denver. But I'm pretty high on Jamal. I think Jamal's a really good player. I think he's one of the more. Everyone is always like, this is the thing that bothers me with the Jamal Murray stuff. He was so good in 2023 that it just messed up the curve. And so everyone just can't imagine, like they see it almost as like from the perspective of how good he was in 2023. And it's like, was he not as good in the last couple of years? Yeah, he wasn't as good. But for the most part, even in the years that everyone says he's bad, he's a reasonably efficient 20-point per game playoff scorer. And like, there's just not that many of those in the league. I think for some reason everybody thinks there's just dudes out there averaging like 27 in the playoffs on high efficiency. Yeah, there's a handful of them, but it's not it's a rare thing. And so like Jamal had to me is like a guy that's like a 20-point per game playoff scorer, has this upside to where in any big playoff game he can go for 30, 35 points, and he is a pretty reliable big game player too. Like I'm higher on Jamal than most. Denver with a double digit lead again here. Trying to run that cross screen action for KD coming off. KD against Spencer Jones. Look at Tim Hardaway in the gap. The classic Hezzy pull up for KD goes in. That's been a staple for a very long time. Ooh, smoke. KD, okay? You hurt his shoulder? Look at Jokic up high, so watch out for the offensive glass now. Look at Jokic recover again. Great shot from Reed Shepherd on the kick out, though. Reed's playing super well, guys. He's been hooping for a few weeks now, but he's playing super well right now. Mario Vera says, shout out to Arizona, looking like a title threat. What a big win on the road in UConn. I thought it was hilarious that Dan Hurley went into his post-game presser and basically blamed injuries, though. It's just such a loser thing to do. Let us do that. We are the ones that talk about the injuries, not you. You're the coach. What are your thoughts on Denver's matchup versus Luka since Fat Luka cooked them last year? Imagine this year. I think the Denver LA matchup would be an incredibly fun one to watch because both teams are going to be able to score on each other at will. So, the thing that Luka brings to the Denver matchup that's really complicated is he can consistently bring Jokic out to the level while also being able to make the reads. Whereas they were able to get away with a lot of deeper drop against the Lakers when it was AD and LeBron and stay out of rotation more. But the Lakers can space him out, and they could like that's why Golden State can give Denver issues too. Like teams that have pick and roll players that can really pull Jokic out to the level, they're the kind of guys that and can pass out of it. Those are the kind of teams that can give Denver some issues on defense. But again, like I think that the Lakers would be hopeless to guard Denver on the other end as well. KJ says, "Please eat your Reed Shepherd flavored words." Laughing my ass off. Love you, Jason. You're great. I can't tell you how many times I texted Sam Vecini over the last like year and a half, and I was like, dude, I just don't see it with Reed. Like, tell me I'm wrong. Explain to me why I'm wrong about Reed Shepherd. He kept just saying like he can really shoot, and he's got a lot more off the dribble than he's shown, and it's just coming together, man. And again, it's mostly the shot, right? Like he can come over a screen and shoot, which is gonna then it unlocks different parts of your game. If you can come over the screen and shoot, it's like, can you make that skip pass like he made? He's making the skip pass. He's just playing really good basketball. Can't complain. Lonzetta says Aaron Gordon is like a Braun kryptonite. He's got the strength and size to stay in front of him. Yeah, it works when he's, in his very late 30s and early 40s. There were two sides of the Lakers' problems post the Russell Westbrook trade, and it was sending out good role players, and LeBron and AD both just went down a little bit of a level. Instead of LeBron being a bona fide in the conversation for best player in the world, he went to that kind of like I can get there any given night, but I can't sustain it. And then AD went from I'm in the conversation with the best players in the world to I can't get there every night, I can't sustain it. And that just made it really hard for them to overcome the personnel limitations. Little handoff for Cam Johnson. Good kick out. Oh, Jamal. Great closeout from Amen Thompson. Spooked Jamal pretty good there. Read on the curl. KD over the top. Look at Jokic at the level. What'd they get called here? Oh, they're doing the thing where they get a defensive 3-second call and everyone goes like this. Good job, guys. We were helping in the paint. Christopher says the reason the Lakers didn't win in 2023 is literally because LeBron couldn't muster up anything in the fourth. Yeah, the big thing is like there are two weird seasons in LeBron's career where he just randomly couldn't make a jump shot post the 2012, like now LeBron's a good jump shooter season. It was 2015 and 2023. He just couldn't make a jumper in those seasons. And in both seasons, I think they had an outside shot to win the title if he could have made jump shots, but he just wasn't able to. That's hilarious. Jokic high post, handoff to Jamal. Good show from Şengün. Jokic is going to get an offensive rebound here. Nope. Good crash from Jabari. Jabari came flying in to keep that away from Jokic. Jabari trailing big. Extra pass to Reed in the corner. Bucket. 1 point game. Reed Shepherd's hooping his ass off. Şengün's doing a good job walling off Jokic on those post ups. Nope, not that time. He's just off the left side of the rim. What a cut along the baseline from Amen Thompson there. Jamal Murray got caught sleeping. Houston's got a lead now. Hardaway, nice little jumper there in the mid range. Jokic at the level. Nice recovery. Jokic is doing a great job with that tonight. Helping out the strong side corner. Jabari can't make him pay. Little wide pin down for Jamal. Flowing into an inverted screen. And Jokic gets a foul on the KD rip through. Khan says, Jason, is Jokic in the top 10 all time? This is a tough one because he only has one title, and it's just really hard to crack into the top 10 if you only have one title. But he also has 3 MVPs, which is an exceedingly rare NBA feat. So it's just tough to say. Let me just put it this way. Jokic is certainly one of the 10 best basketball players I've ever watched. But in terms of resume, I think he needs another title to crack into that list. Everyone keeps saying the Jazz are killing the Thunder. I need to check on that on the next commercial break. Little weak side double team from Reed. They see Tim Hardaway was the open man there, but it took him way too long to get the ball there. But a beautiful piece of shot making from Tim. Third jumper of the game there. Denver recovering nicely. A little 4-0 run after Houston goes up 1. Oh, Şengün wanted that one. Look at that. Reed Shepherd slipping out of that inverted screen, knocking down the 3. A little inverted screen for Denver on the other end. That's a tough shot there going through 2 defenders at the rim. Amen Thompson semi-transition, Jokic is back. Şengün's got Murray. Another inverted screen just kinda runs by. Flows into the KD two-man game. Nice kick out to Okogie in the corner. And those Rockets wings, the Rockets wings that you kinda have to live with them taking threes. They've been making threes this season, man. Jokic left open. Gotta make that. Does. Off the back rim. Nice shot. Just a guy says, when can we stop doing the title and results based all time rankings? I look, on the one hand, I kind of like discussing it in that lens. To your point, without factoring in the accomplishments, because then we can actually talk about basketball and what they do as basketball players. But ultimately, why do we play basketball? We play basketball to win the games, and why do we play the games to get to the game where you can win the Larry O'Brien Trophy? Ultimately, that's the purpose of everything. Another ball screen. Jokic at the level, so watch out for Şengün on the glass. Oh, what a feed in the short range to Amen Thompson. Jokic has been doing a good job of that all night, but that time he was just a little bit too slow on the drop off to Thompson. He keeps getting up high and getting back, getting up high and getting back. What a game, guys. We got ourselves a good one here. KJ says looking like a classic in the making. Could not agree more. And you bet your ass at halftime we're going to go to that Jazz Thunder game. That one will be fun. Michael says OKC's going to win that game. Yeah, I would bet so as well. Jamal gets a switch on Reed. Try to post him up. You can post up Reed. Give him space. Nope, they're going back to the two-man game. They ice it. Jokic is open on the pop. Another handoff to Murray. They're digging down off Tim Hardaway, and he missed the read. They're going to dig off of Hardaway. You got to make the read. That's on Jamal. What matches do you want to see in Vegas for the West? As a Lakers fan, I want to see Lakers Thunder again. I think the Lakers desperately need to have a game where they look nearly as good as OKC. Even if they lose, they need a game where they're like right there with them, like, hey, we can score on you and we can guard you a little bit. And I don't want to wait till February to see that. That's a tough one from Jabari. Unnecessary foul from Cam Johnson. 2 seconds left. It looked like you fouled him, Cam, at least in the live feed. Yeah, dude, you fouled him. Did the high five and you got up underneath him a little bit. Certainly too high risk of a closeout. Like, look at where your feet are. You're getting up underneath him, dude. BC says Lakers almost went 2-0 versus the Thunder last year after acquiring Luka, but he got ejected in the second game. Yeah, to me, like what I take away from that is not like, oh, the Lakers are better than OKC. It's more just like I've seen this more or less this version of the Lakers be able to score against the Thunder defense before. Didn't happen last week. Like they got absolutely demolished, right? So like I think it's important for them to have a game where they go, oh yeah, like we can score on these guys. Mr. Lux Pick says fouling at the end of halftime or fouling at the end of half on jump shots goes up like 80%. I swear, dude. I don't know what it is. Everyone just gets so much more like juiced up on their closeouts when it's the end of the quarter for some stupid reason. It makes no sense. Love the heave. All right, 3-point game. Really interesting first half. Again, Houston in that second quarter got several things going. Reed Shepherd got his drop coverage scoring going and hit several spot up threes. One on like a corner kick out, another one where he kind of slipped out of an inverted screen with Şengün. Really nice basketball there from Reed Shepherd. Got some defense to transition stuff, got a few offensive rebounds. That corner kick to Koji that went in, started to get some jump shots to go at the end. Reed was screaming at Tim Hardaway. But, they got some of their over the top shots to go. That was really a key there. I saw someone in the chat said that, and I think that that was a good call out. KJ says, "Do you think the Cam Johnson fit will end up being a bust or it's too early?" I think it's way too early. I think we'd have to be like legit 30 games into the season with Cam staying healthy and it not looking good for me to be like antennas up, like something's wrong here. I think there's a lot of pressure on him to be good, and I think he's just struggling with it. But I think he's a really talented basketball player, and his skill set very naturally fits this team. So I expect him to be better. All right, let's head over to Utah. I am looking forward to watching the Lakers here in Utah on Sunday night, and they're showing that they can be a huge pain in the ass to beat at home. I think they came into the night 4-3 at home, if I remember correctly. Like they're a pretty good home team. Let's see here. AJ Mitchell on Ace Bailey. Good wall up. Good D from Ace Bailey on AJ Mitchell there. Kick ahead to Ace. Oh, he went to the windmill dribble and Alex Caruso read it perfectly. What do you think Reed's ceiling is? Way too early for me to tell you that. He's just barely starting to scratch the surface of what he can do, so it's kind of hard to tell. Chet going downhill at Hartenstein, pulls it back, runs into a little two-man game. They switch it, Markkanen. What a snatchback dribble from Alex Caruso on Laurie. That's disgusting, man. What do you guys think? Do you think by the time we head back to Houston at the start of the second half that this game will be tied? Markkanen posting up in case of Wallace somehow that's not a foul, I guess. Good turnover for Denver or for OKC's defense. Nice little closeout attack too. Got into his body and knocked down the bank shot. Back to 10. I was wrong about Reed Shepard, man. I will take my lumps for that. I deserve it. I was wrong. I tried really hard not to be, I swear. I just was like, so I got to be missing something here. And then, he started playing better basketball. Kudos to him. Do we have any clutch games that we can pop over to? Let's see. Yeah, Pels Mavs 101-100. We'll head over there for a little bit. What would you guys rather watch? Let's start a poll real quick. Give you guys just a few seconds. All right, everybody vote on which game you want to watch. I'll give it about 2 minutes, then I'll head over. The Mavs Pelicans game is 103-101 with 5 minutes left. Or we can watch the Jazz try to stiff arm the Thunder. We got 7 votes. I'll wait till we get to 10 votes, and then I'll run over there and check it. Got 11 votes now. Everyone says New Orleans and Dallas. So I'm going to head over there. "103-103. Max Christie trying to dribble too much. Gets dug down on. Kick ahead to Trey Murphy. Smoke. Great contest from PJ Washington. Did you guys see that lineup I threw out? If you make a LaMelo Anthony Davis trade, all of a sudden, like the roster kind of makes sense. It's like LaMelo, Max Christie, Cooper Flagg, PJ Washington, Derek Lively. Jason, would Josh Green make the Lakers a contender? Not a contender, but he is absolutely the kind of guy that I think the Lakers could use as more of one of the like discounted bench type of moves. Like if you could turn Gabe Vincent, for example, into a Josh Green, I think that'd be a big upside for the Lakers. But Josh had surgery back this summer, and I'm not sure he's even close to returning yet. Derek Queen on Cooper Flag just goes through him, flexing and talking shit. Najee Marshall turns the corner on Jeremiah Fears and draws a foul. A little bit too ambitious defense from Jeremiah there. Cost Kingdom says, Jason, what do you think of the Lakers getting Herb plus Eves Misi for Dalton Connect, Maxi Kleba, Gabe Vincent, a first and two swaps? I mean, that's a steep price to pay for Herb Jones, but like I definitely like players more than draft picks in the short term. Because I want to see them try to capitalize on the LeBron era, but I don't know that they'll pay that much for a non-superstar. Timeout. Let's head over to Utah. Oh, the old double timeout pump fake from League Pass. Boo. Timberwolves responded against the Suns. Let's head over there for a break. Devin Booker 3 on the right wing, in and out. Jalen Clark kick out. And it's like, dude, I'm wide open on the wing. Saw someone say Dylan Brooks got Anthony Edwards out of his slump. Jason, is there a universe where you would let the Lakers go for Paul George? Bet the Sixers are willing to give up. No, there's no way. Too much salary to match for a player that's not good enough. Is Phoenix a sleeper this year? I don't think so. I viewed them coming into the season as a team that'd be a feisty regular season team, just because they have a lot of like roster balance. But no, just no. Anthony Edwards, 35 points. Do you think you get more confident slash make shots as a basketball player when you have a bad defender on you? I swear, as a career long Luka fan, I've had this argument with my friends all the time. I don't know how to explain it, but I swear it's real. I don't know how many of you guys that are watching are basketball players that are scorers, but if you are, you know damn well that's right. When you get a defender on you where you're like, oh, I can dribble comfortably against this guy and get to my spot, your eyes light up and you tell everybody to get the fuck out of the way and you do your thing. Jason, would you ever work for an NBA organization if the opportunity ever presented itself? Absolutely. It's an extreme long shot, but if they ever called me, man, I'd pick up the phone so fast. I love working in the media, but there's nothing I'd rather do than compete, like actually compete at the NBA level, even if it was just working for a team. Dylan Brooks step back package, bucket. Oh my god, reminds me of that James Harden clip when he saw Bull try to guard me. How are we doing over in Houston? Not there yet. Okay, so he's back within 6, guys. My prediction may be coming true here. KJ, there's not really anything to treat about to teach about true shooting percentage. It's really simple. Like the field goal percentage is how many of your shots go in the basket. Effective field goal percentage is how many of your shots go in the basket weighted for threes. And true shooting percentage is how many of your shots go in the basket weighted for threes and free throws. It's really that simple. I think they each have their value. On the single possession, field goal percentage is worth more. Um, Obviously, every sort of actual missed shot has an offensive rebounding opportunity as well. Collier gets Caruso on a switch and jacks up a bad midi shot clock violation. I'm gonna head back over to the Dallas game. Check on that one. Philly P75 says when Utah's offense is clicking, it's pretty good. They just can't play D like at all. Yeah, I agree. Like when I watch them, I'm always really impressed by how they get in and out of their sets and how hard they cut, screen, and drive, and they make good driving kick reads, and they all can shoot a little bit, and they're like a pretty well coached team in my opinion. But yeah, there's the ever since Kessler went out, their defensive back line just isn't very good. Nurkic to me is a guy that like there's a certain kind of game that can play into his style. Like when he's pretty active with his hands and is a decent defensive playmaker, but when he actually goes up against any really high level pick and roll ball handler, he's just completely overmatched. Elcon says, Jason, what role did you play back in your what role did you love playing back in your playing days? When I was in college, I was not very skilled offensively, so I was very much your typical role player. At JUCO, I scored a lot. I had my career high was 31. I had probably like 7 or 8 20-point games in my entire college career. But that was all JUCO scoring, which is it's a much looser, less organized form of basketball. It's much harder. I found it very hard to score at the NAIA level, just how well coached and smart all the teams were. And at that level, I was very much just a defensive player who rebounded and guard. I was the guy who guarded the other team's best player every game. So funny. I use Synergy for my job now. I use Synergy back then to scout players. I would literally look at like what percentage of the time they would drive left versus right, what they would likely do if they drove right versus driving left, like would they shoot a jump shot versus go all the way to the rim, how likely were they to pass the basketball if they drove a certain direction, like all these different things. I would just watch film on players and I'd guard them. But like I was like, I think in NAIA I only averaged like 5 points a game. But since I've gotten older, I've become a much better dribble, shoot, pass kind of guy that can be more reliably good on offense. What a kick ahead to Max Christie. We got ourselves a good finish here. Herb Jones gets downhill on Cooper Flag, spins, and whoa! I thought that was a block for a second. It's kind of an absurd athletic play for a goaltend. Oh, he went up through the rim. I see. Cooper against Derek Queen. This is that little shit talk fest we've had early. He said, and one! And one! He's shaking his head now. I really don't see how that's a foul, but very nice take. He's just standing there with his arms up. Oh, he came down with his hands, it looks like. At what point, if you're Ime, do you just start Shep full time? I mean, a lot of it depends on what he wants to do. If he wants to stick with that too big look, like that's working too, guys. The amount of offensive rebounds are grabbing. Let me pull the lineup data for you, though, just so that we have it here. Might as well go with the right numbers. Zion, little 2-man game, gets into Derek Lively's chest. Good D from Lively. Zion, same kind of call there that happened on Derek Queen, just kind of came with his hands down. See how his arm is down just a little bit, just that little bit down makes all the difference there with the foul call. I'm pulling lineup data on the Rockets, guys. I'll let you guys know in a minute. How many NBA guys have you been on the court with? It's been a lot. Um, a few dozen actually at various points. All these like random situations too. The place where I played with the most NBA talent was at the University of Arizona. I didn't play there, but when I lived there after college, I got invited to play in pickup runs at the Richard Jefferson Center because one of my buddies, one of my good buddies, one of the people who was a groomsman in my wedding, actually played at the University of Arizona, and so he would like get me into the runs with him. And I played in some crazy fucking basketball games in that gym. I played in a game that had Aaron Gordon and TJ McConnell and who's the big lefty who went to Duke? The one that looked at Arizona but didn't go to Arizona. Um, why am I blanking on his name? Who can help me with this? It was the same year, like right around like Stanley Johnson went to Duke, lefty, ended up playing in the league for a few years, played with the Heat for a while. It's been a long week, guys. Brain's a little cooked. Justice Winslow, thank you. But yeah, like he was in that run. There were like a bunch of other high major D1 dudes. Nick Johnson was in that run. That was just like that was crazy. But then I've run into him everywhere. Like I've played in a random money tournament in a suburb of Nashville and played against Kenneth Fareed. Like just played in a random men's league against Derek Williams. Like a bunch of like random shit like that. That's tough off the left shoulder for Cooper. All right, we'll go back to on stoppages we'll come over to Dallas, but we're gonna go back to the Houston game. Thanks for the message, Brian. All right, pick and pop. Jokic is open. Got to knock it down to make him pay. Oh my goodness! Every part of the rim, but it went in. Endis, yeah, the manimal. I've never seen a human being be able to box out whilst in midair the way that Kenneth Fareed could. That was some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. This dude would literally like elevate and grab a rebound and in midair just be like shucking dudes off with his shoulders to get separation. That guy was crazy. Jokic at the level gets back. Same thing. Jokic at the level gets back, but Şengün beat him that time. That's the little yo-yo happening with Denver's defense right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. He dunked all over Şengün there. Howard's very upset that we're telling stories. Şengün with the get back? No, gets stripped by Cam Johnson. Didn't see the second defender come over. 3-on-2. Watson down the lane. Bucket. Nice little run from Denver to reassert control starting the third quarter. Let's head back over to New Orleans. $11-2 run for Denver to start the second half. That driving dunk from Jokic was ridiculous. Here we go. Jeremiah Fears a ball screen. PJ Washington on the switch. Nope, they're going to go to Zion against Najee. Kick out. Fears 3. Left it way short. Got a foul. Got a foul. Got a foul. Backcourt trap. Cooper split it. Kick ahead. Oh, man. Yeah, Noobish Wizard said Jokic final offensive move unlocked. I haven't seen him go with the rip through dunk very many times in his career. That was very much a say it with your chest type of play. Tim, thanks for the super chat, man. He says, watch you for about a year every year. Watch you for about a year. Very good basketball mind. I suspect a good game, Houston and Denver, and I think OKC loses tonight and the Lakers win Sunday. I'm a little worried about the Lakers game in Utah on Sunday just because I think that might play with some fire and it can end up to being a close game late. But I'm hoping that the Lakers have a more sharp performance out the gates. I hope that JJ uses it as an opportunity to kind of make like adjustments based on how they defended in the first game. But yeah, this Houston Denver game has been excellent. All right, let's head back over to Houston. Yeah, Daminion. I can't wait till Jokic gets asked about the dunk in the post game press conference. Yeah, it's going to be a good clip. He's going to do something to make us laugh. I'm sure. Minnesota Phoenix still battling. Max Christie could help a real team. Yeah, he's getting to that point. Like it was funny because when I was rooting for Max with the Lakers, it was a couple of years ago, and it was really just before the trade that he really started to settle into becoming like a reliable NBA player. And it was a little too mistake prone in some key areas. He was really bad when he would dribble into the middle of the floor with his like shot pass decisions. He'd have some turnovers in there. Then on defense, he was just a little thinner, so he could get bumped off his base a little easier. Right there towards the end before the Luka trade, he really started to kind of figure out how to become a more consistent NBA player. See how Jokic was at the level that time but was unable to recover to the role the way he's been all game. Jokic gets him back. Little ram screen for Şengün, flowing into a handoff on the other side. Reed's open and KD missed him, man. Freaking nasty jab step, though. Look at Amen Thompson and Jabari Smith working the glass. Blocked, though. Jamal Murray's got to watch out for Amen cutting out of the corner there. KJ, I will coach eventually. I need to get I'm in a new work routine this year, so I need to get settled. It probably won't be this season, maybe next season though. I've never collaborated with Thinking Basketball, but I am a fan of his work. Good deflection from Jokic there. I do believe in Cam Johnson's shot. He's got a pretty extended track record of being a good shooter. I'm not worried about that in the big picture. What a feed underneath Cam Johnson. Good defense from Cam to recover though. Offensive rebound. The Ben Thompson's really active on the offensive glass right now. Oh my goodness. What a sequence from Amen Thompson to get a little run for Houston. Just a wrecking ball right now. Jokic on the pop again. Doesn't take it this time. Flows into action with Şengün. Watch that backside double from KD. Nice kick out to Peyton Watson. Good, clean look. Nice kick out from Peyton Watson there. Nice response from Murray. Double wide pin down for KD as a little decoy action while Amen Thompson and Şengün are running two-man game. Şengün leaves that way short on the one leg fadeaway. Jamal Murray's got Reed. He keeps falling into the two-man game. I'd love to see him post Reed a little bit. That's your textbook pocket pass to Jokic finish. Amen Thompson got a good contest there. Jokic is so good at that shot. Jabari gets Jamal on a switch. Nice kick out. Oh, turnover. KD back cut right as Şengün thought he was going to come off the handoff, and so he passed it right into the turnover. U434287 says, Jason, I have to ask this. If Nico demanded Reeves to be included in the Doncic trade, would Pelinka eventually give in? Yeah. I think Austin's probably a Mav right now if that happens. I think honestly though, like Nico had or I should say Rob had more leverage than you'd think in that situation because of the simple fact that like how could you retain Luca after a trade if you didn't have a competing roster around him? He basically would like because ultimately if you trade everything for Luca, then you're trading Luca into a rebuild. Luca's just going to want to trade again. Ooh, Katie got hit in the face. He's upset. And this is Jason. I heard Kerr on a podcast talk about how offensive players are using their shoulder slash off arm as a battering ram to dislodge defenders. Do you think offensive players get away with too much? No, I think the league is skewed towards being more physical in recent years, and I think you got to give offensive players a chance to fight back. Jokic a little aggressive on the dig up at the level there. What a nice rip move from KD there. Missed it. KD's missed a couple of middies here, but Jabari Smith and Amen Thompson are starting to do damage on the offensive glass. So again, the bigs for Denver have held up really well on the glass, but the guards are starting to get their butts kicked a little bit here. Patrick. I don't know. We have a couple of people that don't want any more stories, so we'll have to get into that a different time. Thank you for the super chat, though, man. Maybe on a commercial. The pin down for Jokic. Takes the three over Şengün. It hits it. Wow. Bucket. Jokic is very competitively engaged tonight. He's been an excellent defensive player tonight, and he's given some buckets out now. KD on Spencer Jones. Jokic up high. Watch Şengün on the roll. There's your 4-on-3. Kick out. Jabari Smith, left corner. Missed it, but Amen Thompson wants a foul call. Doesn't get it. What a nice little transition push from Denver. Playing really good basketball. The starters are kicking ass. That was weird. They called him for a trip. I was going to say it looked like he kind of pulled the chair a little bit there. No, the stories are fine. I'm just making a joke. I always I think it's hilarious when people are like legit just super angry online. Like, why are you here if you're so upset, dude? Go somewhere else. KD's got two at the level. Nice little pocket pass to Adams. That's beautiful basketball there. So that's like that's just that classic tic-tac-toe sequence, right? KD comes off the action, two on the ball. Adams is open in the pocket. That forms a weak side 2-on-1. You swing to the wing, the corner rotates up, extra pass to the corner, Reed Shepherd pays it off. Really nice shot there. H Chicken says unnecessary Hayden Christensen hate. I totally agree. I know I'm a millennial, so I grew up in the prequel trilogy era. So I'm the wrong guy to ask probably, but I'm a Hayden Christensen fan. Though every time I rewatch it now as an adult, I just think his entire character is a petulant teenager. And Hayden Christensen played petulant teenager really well. Like it's the whole thing is He's being super immature and short-sighted and not seeing the bigger picture on anything. And all right, we'll get off Star Wars for a minute. Jokic on Adams. Gonna run a split cut for Jamal, it looked like for a second, but Jokic just gonna ISO, draws the double. What a pass to Bruce! Oh, just missed it. Man, Jokic is playing super well tonight. Really nice rack there off of the right corner from what a pass! Oh, Bruce smoked it. See if Houston can capitalize. Little quick little brush handoff. Bruce went under, but he got into KD's body and drew a foul. Oh my god. That was a hell of a finish from Jabari. I've seen the Dune movies. I liked them. I also watched what was the show that was on HBO Max? That was about the old lady Jedi, whatever Sith people. What was that show called? Dune Prophecy. Yeah, I enjoyed Dune Prophecy. It was super weird, but I enjoyed it. I also watched. I ended up because the guy who plays the dude who can like use his brain to like kill the witches. I watched the first couple seasons of Vikings. I couldn't make it any further, but I did enjoy the first couple seasons. Offensive rebound payoff for Jabari. How many second chance points is that for Houston in this quarter? It's got to be at least 7. Minnesota's pulling away against Phoenix. Utah's up 1 on OKC. I'm going to pull up the Golden State game for this commercial break. Another commercial. Utah's at half. We'll go to Phoenix. Steph, 23 first half points, 8 for 11, 6 of 9 from 3. Wow. Well, Zed, I totally agree. Jabari and Amen Thompson just really stepping it up as athletes and kind of kicking the shit out of some of Denver's perimeter guys has been a huge part of this little resilient run we've seen from Houston. Man, we had all our games go to commercial at the same time, so we're gonna head back over to Houston. Really quickly, a Star Wars take. I ever since Disney bought uh the franchise, they've just been super scared to try anything. And then when they do try anything, they're like scared to stick with it. Like Acolyte's probably the most bizarre thing they've tried, going into a complete different era, and then they bailed on it in one season. Um they won't leave the current timeline, so they're having to operate underneath the top storylines, which is making everything kind of lack the stakes. You know, like what makes a great show is stakes. Like I rewatched Game of Thrones earlier this summer with my wife, and like it's the White Walkers that make that show awesome because you're scared as shit of them. You got to have like a real villain to kind of tie a storyline together. And Star Wars has been operating with like, here's a really skilled general, and I like Thrawn, you know, but I'm a nut job. Like for capturing the fancy of the masses, they're going to have to come up with a bigger new storyline. What are your thoughts on the Raptors making the Eastern Conference Finals? I think it could happen. I wouldn't be completely shocked if that happened. I'd say it's a long shot at this point. What does Reed Shepard's ascension mean for Fred in the next years? It means they probably try to use his salary as a ballast for a trade, is my guess. Warriors are literally a spark plug from really being in the mix. Who are some targets using JK? I agree. The spark plug type, the scoring, the guy who can like explode for 15, 20 points in a quarter is exactly the kind of guy that I think they need. And that's why I like the Trey Murphy, Malik Monk types that have been thrown around. I actually really like for them. God, what a dunk! Manuel says Houston can win even when they're not shooting well. I mean, their offensive rebounding is such a huge part of their attack. They wanna get shots up with the defense kinda in rotation or, like, shifted over to one side because it opens offensive rebounding lanes for them. Little, back screen to try to get Jokic a post mismatch, really well defended by Steven Adams, got through the screen and got over there, but just got a little too close to Jokic's shooting pocket, draws a foul. He's staring at Steven Adams. He's literally looking at him like, "Come on, dude. Come on." Teddy says, Jason, why does Houston struggle to find KD sometimes? There's not a ton of playmaking talent on the roster, so they can get a little bit, you know, losing the sight of the like kind of the this bigger picture of the floor sometimes. What up, Kalen? Good to see you, buddy. All right, what are we doing here? KD Adams 2-man game? Yes. Wiped him out on the screen. That's going to get what a nasty hesitation move from KD to get around Jokic. What an incredible. What did they call here? Oh, so I think KD got the roll and then Adams picked up the and one on the offensive rebound. Jason, do you think Miami's offensive style could start a new trend in the NBA? I think in general, we've seen it around the league, the idea of pushing in transition and using dribble penetration rather than just ball screens to break down a defense so that you can just play drive and kick. Um, I think we've seen it work in a couple locations too. Memphis obviously did something similar last year. I know it's early, but do you think a Cavs team with a healthy Darius Garland will be enough to deal with OKC's defense in a potential finals matchup? I think it's a really bad matchup for them. I just think Donovan and Darius are just in for a really tough series with a bunch of quick guards that look good on defense against them. What a dig down there. Jabari recovers. That was a really nice piece of defensive playmaking from Reed Shepard. Reed's open in the weak side corner if KD can get it there. See if he gets it there. Nope. Jokic strips him on the pull up. Okogie left wing. Boom. Rockets by 2. Denver's looked bad when they've gone to their bench tonight. Jokic on Adams again. Wow. Just barreled. Adams was giving him the lefty drive, and KD came over to help. H Chicken says, "Man, when did Okogie learn to shoot like this? Everybody on the Rockets not named Amen Thompson is shooting like lights out on threes this year. It's super bizarre." Addicted Lawyer says, "Why do you think the Heat's offense is gimmicky, and why can't it work in the playoffs?" It has nothing to do with the offense. It has to do with the players. It's not. I've said this a couple times already. Gimmicky was the wrong word to choose. It's just it. It is a system advantage that is allowing Houston to play better than their team looks on paper. and I mean it as a credit to their coaching staff, but ultimately, I just don't think they have good enough basketball players to score in the playoffs. It doesn't have anything to do with the system. I'm saying the system is allowing them to play better than they would in that setting, which is a credit to the system, which is a credit to Spoelstra. Wow. Tried to grift on that little dig in from Reed Shepherd. Reed's open again in the left corner if they can get it there. Nope. That's a tough little step back three in transition, Jabari. Jabari's hooping. Rockets by 3. Wow, Tim Hardaway. What balance. What a great shot. That's really impressive work from Jabari. He pointed right at Jabari. Yeah, King Ante says, the Heat don't have superstar talent to be top teams. That's really it for me. Like, they don't they always had Jimmy Butler that could go toe to toe with the top tier stars in the league that gave them a leg up in those sorts of situations, and they don't have that anymore. They're one of the I think Eric Spoelstra is literally the best coach in the NBA. I think he's done a wonderful job maximizing the talent on that team. I'm speaking about the roster. Little, double ball screen out of Horns. Şengün rolls, Okogie pops. Drives on Jamal. Nice kick out. Tim Hardaway helped really far off of Men Thompson there. Men Thompson, again, is the one Rocket that's not hitting threes, other than their bigs, obviously, Capella and Adams. Random double team. Men Thompson drives across the lane. Okogie, no dip. What a block from Bruce. 2 tenths left, so you just gotta get to the front of the rim here. Why do you think Tyler Herro can't be the spark for the Heat? Has he just not shown enough? It's not that he can. It's just he's like, guys, how many series are the Heat going to play in where they have the best perimeter offensive player? Like, just think about it. All right, I'll pull up the NBA standings and we'll check. Again, perimeter offensive player. Like, they stop the ball. We are now trying to execute offense against an elite defense in the half court. Who's the guy that's got the ball in his hands and is like determining the advantage, right? Like Detroit, Cade's a lot better than Tyler. Toronto, like Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram, or Bam and Tyler, Tyler and Norman Powell. Like that one's closer, but I think Scotty and Brandon bring some real physical traits to the table that are tough to match up with. Cavs, Garland and Mitchell, both better than any perimeter ball handler for Miami. The Knicks, Brunson, way better ball handler than any perimeter player for Miami. Philly, Tyrese Maxey is a better ball handler than any perimeter player than Miami. Atlanta, Trey Young, Orlando, Franz and Paolo. Even Bain is a better. Like I think, like Harrow's probably Harrow and Bain is a more complicated debate, but the point is their big guys are better. Chicago, like is Josh Giddey as like an offensive engine type? Like you're now getting down to the 9 and 10 seed where we're talking about that. And by the way, the 10 seed, it's Milwaukee. Giannis is better than any perimeter player for Miami. Boston, Jalen Brown's better than any perimeter player than Miami. Like it's just ultimately their top end talent. I don't think is good enough. I think Harrow's a good offensive creator. Again, it's compared to those guys. How many names did I list that you think like, oh, Tyler Harrow's better than that dude? Jason, how does erasing the defensive 3 seconds rule change basketball tactics in the NBA? It would just make it a lot easier to park somebody underneath the basket, but that's not necessarily a solution to your problem. I think what we'd start seeing if you allowed that is a lot more zone. That's really the thing. Like, if Tyler Harrow was my second best ball handler and I had a better player than him on the team, not somebody in the same tier in that conversation the way Norman Powell is, like, it's a totally different conversation. Like, had they got a Dame Lillard over the years without giving up too much, like, that's a different conversation. But that guy was Jimmy for them in the past. The Kogi's open on the skip again. Jokic has just done such a good job in this game of positioning himself between Houston's bigs and the rim. It's been a huge part of the Denver's success in this game, with them being down 2 starters. Jonas are blitzing Murray again in this bench group, guys. Jonas up, got him. Şengün is shocked. I think Jonas was trying to signal that was a flop. I'm surprised he didn't get called for the offensive foul there, though. That looks like the kind of play that typically gets whistled an offensive foul. Look at Denver gapping again. Hand off to Holiday. Good contest. Denver's doing a good job positioning them. Don't foul. Good D. Good rebound, too. Couple of good defensive possessions from Denver in a row. Blitzing Murray again. The kick back to Hardaway. Boom! Big shot. Amen Thompson bringing the ball up the floor. Şengün buried Peyton Watson, but they couldn't make this post entry. Man, that sucks. Şengün is doing a lot of falling. I'm sure Nuggets fans are not pleased with that to start here. I shouldn't say start anymore. We're almost 3/4 of the way through this thing. Quick blitz and Murray. Nice little roll. Jonas gets cut off. Another blitz. Jonas midi. Oh, a little too close for him. Corner kick. They've been sinking off of that corner in this entire shift. Couldn't pay that one off, though. What a game, guys. 2-point game headed into the fourth. Head over to Phoenix on the commercial break. David says Şengün is the new Embiid. The thing that Şengün has is like Embiid's game is built around the mid range, whereas Şengün has that as a counter to his power game, which I think will make him a guy that plays closer to his ceiling in the postseason. Jason, who's your favorite current NFL QB? Matt Stafford for me, actually. Not a Rams fan. I just have always been a fan of Matt. Kind of has like a little bit of that like Aaron Rodgers like sidearm flip of the wrist kind of flair where it just seems like he effortlessly floats the ball wherever he needs it to be. There's obviously a very high like processing element to it with him reading defenses and using his eyes to distract defenders and confuse them. And I also just think he's a tough motherfucker. I'm a big fan of Matt Stafford. Caitlin says Stafford has all the wow throws and none of the darkness retreats. Gillespie. Good aggressive show from Julius. Looks like Minnesota's gonna pull this one out. Let's head back over to Houston. OKC's up 1 on Utah, early 3rd. What's crazy is every once in a while, I'll see, like, a Calvin Johnson video on Instagram, and, like, dude, that dude just literally looked like a man against boys out there. Him and Randy Moss are, like, the 2 receivers that I can remember watching in my lifetime where it was like, it literally looks like if I went and played flag football against a bunch of middle schoolers. Patrick Branch says, "The last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones were almost as bad as Rise of Skywalker." I enjoy Game of Thrones all the way up through the Long Night episode. It was after that that it kinda went off the rails, those final 3 episodes. That pass was insane. Mark, I think, Peyton Watson's ceiling this season is just more reliable. It doesn't need to be 30 points like it was the other night. It just needs to be more reliable. Like, night to night, just really good effort and energy on defense and on the glass and making good decisions, and his cut reads, his, driving kick reads, knocking down open threes, driving closeouts, all that kinda stuff. We talked about Keontae George and the Lakers Jazz broadcast on Tuesday night, but very similarly, it's just, can he become more consistent? All right, here we go. Another blitz of Murray. Man, they have not been able to get easy 4 on 3s out of those. Jokic is back to start the 4th, though. That's interesting. Kind of a different look than we usually see from Denver. The Hamdama, give Cam Johnson another month or so before we start getting too worried about it. He was awesome the 2 games before this. That's tough. It's pretty heavily contested. Good rebound from Amen. No one stopped the ball. That's trouble. Jamal Murray should have picked up the ball there. I don't know what he was doing. Murray on Reed Shepard just bullies him. I've been calling. Oh, wow. That looked painful. I've been calling for that all game. Jamal Murray has got a big size advantage against Reed Shepard. I want to see him use power to get him all the way to the front of the rim. We got our too big look here from Denver. Jokic on a men. Bruce lost Reed and that forced a rotation. Boom. Wow. One mistake. James, that's hilarious. Watch that. Man, Jamal's been struggling with the double teams tonight. And now he's complaining with the refs instead of getting back, and he gives up a trailer 3. That's unacceptable from Jamal Murray. He struggled with the double teams all night, and he's complaining to the refs and giving up a wide open 3. Nice response from Jamal. Now he's asking for a foul again. Get back. Little drop coverage rep. Jonas is a little higher. I wonder if that was a halftime adjustment. Picks up a foul. Jonas was a little higher on that drop rep. James says Terrell Owens looked like that, only he acted like a middle schooler. 1 point game in Phoenix. Let's pop over there super quick. We'll come right back, guys. Timeout. And Minnesota has the ball, I'm guessing. Look at Reed throwing that aggressive switch out. Oh, Murray made a very nice pass there. He had a couple of easy reads there. Jokic was open and, Tim Hardaway was open. He had 3 open men there, and he hit the cutter and Bruce. Denver back to 1. Couple plays from Jamal Murray to respond to his really bad complaint at the refs and give up a 3 sequence. Tim Hardaway's done a good job on Amen Thompson in those specific actions tonight. Lost him there, gave him a little bit too much of a head of steam. Same action, same coverage, different read, extra pass, missed from Hardaway. Jabari, get your man set up for the screen. All right, here we go. Same action from Houston. This time, Hardaway does his job going under, but Amen Thompson made the shot that you got to concede there. Like, that's the one you concede. It's the layup you can't allow. Let's check over on Phoenix. Thanks for the super chat, Charmanding O. Hey Jason, longtime listener, first time super chatter. Have you ever thought on your player rankings list to incorporate a best Robin for the player you're talking about? What are your thoughts? Meaning, I'm guessing you're referring to the Jamal Murray discussion we were having earlier. Not a bad idea. Maybe we can try something like that next summer, like ranking the top 10 Robins in the NBA. I am not rooting for either team. I actually really like both of these teams. Houston has completely won me over this year, and then I've always been a fan of the Nuggets. I just love the way they play. Yeah, we did do a version of that with Adam. That was back my first show with Adam, right before the start of the season. That was the one in studio recording we did. That was where I went to the DNVR bar. Got a foul in. What random players that got a 6 sizzle reel? I got Quincy AC is a great one. His dunk reel that goes around every once in a while is inside or insane. Random guy, because I was thinking you meant more like off the dribble, like kind of like, ooh, that was kind of nasty dribble combination type of stuff. A random player that's been like that for me over the years is Najee Marshall. He's a guy that'll have like 3 or 4 moves where he'll break a dude's ankle each year, and you're like, oh yeah, Najee can like really dribble. He missed both free throws. Holy cow! Ant missing both free throws is pretty crazy there. Were people overestimating the importance of Fred VanVleet with the Rockets? Yeah, I mean, yeah. I personally dropped him off the top tier of contenders, and now I'm putting him back on despite him not playing. I do want to try to see that game winner, so we'll head back over to Houston, but I'm going to cut back on the next stoppage. Yeah, that's right. Corey Brewer had a 50 piece. There's like the random things you could brag about that are that like if you ever brought it up in a conversation, like no matter who you met, you'd be like, "Holy shit, that's crazy!" Like if you said you were like a surgeon or an astronaut or something like that. Like to me, like dropped 50 in an NBA game is like one of those like rare conversation bombs that is just an all timer. Like, yeah, I once had 50 in an NBA game. That's just you. It doesn't get any better than that. After this possession, I'm going to try to hop over because I want to see the end of that Phoenix game. Nice little quick show from Jabari to make that a little tougher. Jokic knocks it down. Look at Jokic calling out the coverages. He's calling out zone. He wants him in 2-3. That's hilarious. So, like, look, talk about leadership. It looked like Denver's team didn't realize they were supposed to be in zone, and Jokic had to yell it out. Nice little work from the middle there by Şengün. All right, guys, I'm going to head over. Give me 1 second. I really want to see that final possession. Ah, we missed it. Damn it. Can we get a replay? Yeah, Anthony Edwards isn't going to sleep well tonight. Gillespie made it? Give me a replay. Give me a replay. I want to go back to the game. Come on now. Here we go. Let's see. This little guard screen gets a switch, gets downhill. That's tough, Colin. Where was Booker? Was he fouled out? All right, going back to Houston. Sorry, guys. I really wanted to see that. Why was Booker out of the game? And we got an answer for, let me see. But Booker fouled out. Okay. Got it. Two-point game. Nuggets ball. Another pick and pop. Jokic wide open. Long. Good closeout from Şengün there. I thought he did just enough to tweak his release a little bit. Oh, man. Jamal got a good look, too. Oh, man. That's a tough call. Jokic has 5 fouls. It's a hell of a flop from Jabari. Let's see. Was it a foul? Oh, come on, guys. Come on. I would prefer to watch Nikola Jokic play at the end of this game. Let's not call like the slightest bump on a defensive rebound. Denver back in man. Drop coverage. Reed left that one short. They smoked the rebound though. Good job by Cam getting in there. Got the foul. Good little scrap from Denver there. Almost lost Jabari again. Two-man game. Over the top. Tim Hardaway was open. He missed him. What a shot. They're digging down and defending with that third defender. Jamal's been missing some of those kickouts. He struggled with the 3-on-2s and the 2-on-1s today, but that's a hell of a shot there. KD Şengün two-man game. Şengün in the pocket. Little stunt from Tim Hardaway doesn't work, and Şengün's dunking. That's the KD Şengün two-man game has been doing a lot of damage just like that. It's very much like you put two on the ball, Şengün's paying it off on the short roll. If you don't, they're just attacking mismatches. Kick back to Jokic. Needs to get that third defender in. How did he keep his footing there? Oh my God. Good rebound from Jabari. Jabari's been fantastic on the glass tonight. Şengün two-man game with Amen Thompson. Amen Thompson spins off. That's tough. Good defense. Good rebound. Shit, I can't believe Amen Thompson turned that into such a good look close to the rim, but he just left it short. Yeah, David makes an interesting point. Like, at what point does Jokic look to post up instead of this two-man game? But we'll see. Ooh, there's the post up from Jokic. Draw the second defender, kick out to Tim Hardaway. So they did finally go to the post. A little bit of over officiating in this game. That always drives me crazy when you get a big game and then the officials overdo it. Jokic on the weak side drives a closeout on Şengün. Post, double team Cam Johnson. Believe in it. Believe in it. What a shot from Cam. Let's see if Houston can respond. Two-man game under two there. KD, oh, just left it short. But once again, when you have two there up at the level, that's going to open up the offensive rebound. But Şengün picks up a foul instead. Wow. That's like that. That's that gamble you take, though. You put two on KD there, and all of a sudden, Şengün's just booking it down the lane for a rebound. Fortunately, a foul call. Big shot from Cam Johnson. Addicted Lawyer says Cam Johnson is a prettier shot than MPJ. I agree, but Michael Porter Jr. has like kind of a set back shot. I mean, it's like further back on his forehead, which allows him to shoot contested shots a little bit better. It's kind of an interesting, and he's taller, obviously, too. I actually think when it comes to standstill shooting, MPJ is better, but only slightly, and Cam's just better at a lot of other things. Not that it's shown to any degree to start the season, which is at least worth discussing. Oof. Jokic did a good job keeping his chest in front of him and there, not picking up a foul. Really good defense. Wow, in and out. Similar kind of thing though, right? So since Jokic steps over on a man, that kind of opens up that offensive rebounding lane for Şengün. Just fortunately, an offensive rebound or offensive goaltending. What a block from Jamal Murray! What a block from KD! Oh my god! KD came over at the last second and saved a bucket there. Şengün behind the level, kick to Jabari. Oh my god! What a game! KD for the tie. Reed Shepherd for the tie. Oh my god, he got a foul call. This is absolute chaos. So Charmander, you're saying specifically like what would be the best possible Robin for each star. That's interesting. That's a very different type of thought exercise, but that would be really interesting. Man, Houston got some good looks there, didn't pay him off, and Reed misses a free throw. Şengün coming out with 3:40 left. I wonder if Houston's planning on calling a timeout. Yeah, I wonder if Houston's planning on calling a timeout after this possession if they sub Şengün out this close to the end of the game. We'll see. Jokic high post on Adams, a little flare screen for Jamal. Well, this is where nice skip. I'd go to Jamal and let Jamal try to post up Reed. Jokic face up on Adams, nasty. Wow. Good deflection from Cam Johnson on the kick out. Jokic once again got his chest in front of look at Adams. Adams actually just won a one-on-one there with Jokic. Jokic was in front of him. He just went right over the top of him. But Jokic is doing a good job in those two-man game sequences with Amen Thompson at keeping his chest in front. Ooh, gamble from Reed. Cam on the drive. Kick the Hardaway. Nope. All right, Jokic has got Reed on him. You're going to see a double. What a kick. Oh, Tim Hardaway waited just a second too long. Wow, what a shot. Hardaway missed the read for a second, turned it into a much tougher shot, but Jamal knocked it down anyway. Here comes Adams. Jokic is up at the level. Adams is going to roll out. Jokic gets back in front again. And Jabari steps out. Wow. Denver can be really hard to beat in these situations. And it's, yeah, Shep with a bad gamble. It started the driving kick sequence, right? So the gamble starts the driving kick, couple of good reads. Bad read, but Jamal still takes the closeout. David Chase says this is high level b-ball. 100% agree, my friends. Golden State's only up 4 on Portland. Thunder just went on a 30-2 run. Hi, Will. We haven't seen you in a little while. It's always an avalanche with OKC. Portland's lost a couple of really close games. They're a little better than you'd think with their record. I kind of have them as like a more or less a 500 team in the West, where I think they'll finish up. Timma to this says OKC is insane. Yeah, it's really like you hang onto the rope for dear life, and then when you let go, you just get absolutely trampled. The shiny Hacksaurus says, Jason, is it more valuable for Jamal to hit all these rescue shots or to consistently make high level reads? That's a very good question. Ideally both, but it's one of those things where Jamal can kind of rescue himself from his own read making in those sorts of situations by knocking down a shot. Ultimately, you got to put the ball in the basket. My thing is, I do think ultimately there's a higher ceiling, a better chance to keep guys like Christian Brown and Cam Johnson in rhythm if Jamal makes a few more of those reads every game. Jason, you had Denver as a slight championship favorite. That's still the case. What do they need to via trade buyout to complete their roster? It's tricky because I think this is the 17th game for Oklahoma City tonight, and of those 17 games, 13 of those 17 have been against below 500 teams. And then when you combine that with how good Denver has looked, Denver's on the verge potentially of getting a big road win here. I just haven't seen enough to slide Denver down by any means. So like OKC has been super impressive. They've been better than I thought they would look, but they've also played a super light schedule. That doesn't. I know everyone always gets super kind of sensitive when you bring that sort of thing up. It's like, yeah, it's been a unnaturally easy schedule. That doesn't mean they're not the best team. It just means they had a unnaturally easy schedule. They don't have to be competing concepts. 32, 10, and 9 for Jokic. Wow. Will says like no good teams anywhere, sadly. Will, you're gonna do good against the good teams, and the 4 times you played good like, you mean, you beat the shit out of Golden State, you beat the shit out of the Lakers, it's not you're fine, it's just yeah, I mean, they've also played a pretty light schedule. Men Thompson giving Jamal some trouble with the ball pressure. Jokic post up, Cam Johnson curls and gets stripped off of his foot by Jabari, wow. Jason, why'd you move to Denver? To ski. I mean, there were a lot of reasons, but that was the biggest one. You don't make that big of a life decision for one reason. Nice job from Şengün racking the closeout. So notice how as he was coming off of that screen, Jokic was kind of chasing at his right shoulder. So all he has to do is rack left, and he gets kind of a guaranteed drive. Drew the second defender, made a really nice passing read to Amen Thompson there. Two-man game, Amen goes under. The pop is open. Jokic for three. Oh, man. Jokic takes a lot of pick and pop threes in some of these tougher slow down games. Jokic at the level, Şengün gets behind, skip Jabari Smith. What a beautiful pass from Alperen Şengün. Just a tough miss. Beautiful pass from Şengün. That action is just so hard to guard. KD is pulling Jokic out to the level, and it's just making them defend that action 3-on-2, and Şengün's making the reads. I thought Şengün was gonna take that. Şengün hadn't taken a three tonight, has he? Two-man game. Jokic a little deeper this time, gets back, and Jamal gets a huge deflection on the baseline cut. Wow. Here we go. 1 minute left, guys. Jokic up top, inverted with Cam Johnson. They recover. Back to the two-man game. Little stack ball screen, and Murray with the left hand. Wow. See Cam Johnson relocating to the top there. Şengün stays close to Jokic. Easy little spin and finish. No, what a block from Peyton Watson. So Şengün made a couple of mistakes here down the stretch on rolls, a passing mistake and a shooting mistake. I don't know that I would have fouled. If you were going to do it right away. Yeah, good call out. Wow. Look at how Şengün stayed home with Jokic and wasn't in his actual drop. So, like, as he's going downhill there, if he's in a traditional drop coverage, he's positioning himself between Jamal and the rim, but he just lingered on the roll with Jokic just a little bit too long. Jason, do you think Will says, Jason, do you think DFS will be in this late game lineup for Reed by the end of the year? It's hard to say. But I think DFS is kind of the perfect fifth man. Very much like a greaser of the wheels on both ends of the floor and a knockdown 3-point shooter. I liked rooting for DFS when he was a Laker last year. Ashwin says they're doing this without Aaron Gordon and without Christian Brown. They're down 2 starters and they're getting a big win on the road here in Houston. Pop over to Golden State for a minute. Robert Williams. God, he got up on that one. Draymond left wide open, knocks it down. Jason, if you could have Missoula or Ime as your coach of your franchise, who would you take? I'd probably take Missoula. I think that there's value in Missoula bringing personality to a team, but I'd rather just have Missoula and then look for tough dudes naturally. And I think Missoula can coach toughness as well. Spoelstra, though, for me, though. I think Spoelstra's the best coach in the league. Jimmy, I announced the playback streams at the top of every one of our Hoops Tonight shows. I let you know what streams I'm doing that week. Next week, we're doing the two NBA Cup Laker games. So that's Lakers Clippers and Lakers Mavs on Tuesday and Friday. Whoa, Amen Thompson three bucket. Wow, that's a big shot. Got to foul Jokic now. Nope. Have to root for the Lakers, sadly, for the pick. Sorry, Will. What makes a good coach? What's the most important factor for being a good coach? That's a really good question because there's so many different elements to get into it. But if I had to synthesize it down to one thing, I think the number one thing would be achieving buy-in to what your scheme is. Like having guys actually like committed on a possession to by possession basis to doing their job. But there's so many different factors. There's a leadership element like managing different personalities, coaching differently for different types of personalities. There's like a game plan piece, like actually identifying your opponent's weaknesses and building a game plan that matches that. There's situational coaching, like managing late game situations and things like that. Whoa, what a pass. Yeah, and Spo, I think, is really good at all of those things. Jason, which team do you think the Lakers match up better with, Houston or the Nuggets? I think probably Denver. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm really worried about Houston with the Lakers because they're bigger, faster, and more athletic. And LeBron and Luca are like kind of power playmakers. It would very much be a very much an Austin series, but then they have a weapon for Austin in the form of Amen Thompson. I think they play on Christmas Day. I'm a little worried about that one for the Lakers. I think because I think it's going to require LeBron and Luca to beat bigs, and they just aren't necessarily the fastest dudes in the world. But we'll see. I think it's foolish to underestimate Luca. Jamal missed a free throw. And we talked about it earlier with the Nuggets. Like, I do think the Nuggets will struggle to guard the Lakers, and that's a key difference compared to like a Houston, for example. But then again, I mean, maybe we'll see similar dynamics to what we saw tonight, where the Lakers do a good job guarding Houston. That would be interesting to see. James Siren says, Jason, if skiing is your thing, Canadian Rockies are better. Powder, views, women, and shorter lines. I have skied Whistler. Does that count as the Canadian Rockies? No, I think that's actually part of the Cascade Range, if I remember correctly. But my father-in-law did a trip to the Canadian Rockies a couple years ago, and he said he really enjoyed it. He went to like a half dozen different resorts within a half dozen days. I think Houston is absolutely more athletic than the Lakers. I mean, Amen Thompson is far more athletic than any player on the team. Like, just look at like a Jabari, even like Alperen Şengün is every bit as athletic as a DeAndre Ayton, if not a little bit more so. KJ, from what I understand, when you're skiing some of those rural southern Canada resorts, they're not super expensive. The way he told me, that was like one of the cheapest ski trips he ever did. Like some of the lift tickets were like, he's a senior too, so he was getting senior discounts. But like he had some days where he skied for like $35. Wow, what a shot from Jabari Smith! Got to get it in. They do. Who called the timeout? Was that Ime? I think he called the timeout so he could set up his press. That was a really smart call from Ime Udoka there. Or was it Denver? Denver called it. Wow, David Adelman called a timeout even though they got the inbound. I don't necessarily see the point in that. That's a hell of a piece of shot making from Jabari Smith off the move. Right left footwork, gets great lift and knocks it down. See how he plants his right foot and then his left foot? That's like textbook movement shooting going to your left for a right-hander. See that? Boom, boom. If you go off the hop, you slow yourself down. If you go left, right, you slow yourself down. Right, left allows you to run into the shot full speed. Yeah, this has been an excellent basketball game. Houston did some real damage there in the middle fourth with that KD Şengün pick and roll, just getting Jokic out above the level and getting the ball to the short roll. Denver ended up getting a couple stops there ultimately, but they did some damage there. They did a lot of damage on the offensive glass in the second half. They kind of physically wore Jokic down to the point where he started missing his three-point shot. That's something to keep an eye on too. See if Denver can get the ball in bounds here. Oh, what a deflection from Amen Thompson. KD just comes in and shoves Jokic in the back. Will, I'm rooting for Houston to drop to the 4 seed so that they end up playing you guys in round 2. I need the Lakers to get the 3 seed so that Houston drops to 4. I think that would be their best case scenario. All right, couple clutch free throws for Jokic here. Will, I have no interest in the 4 seed. I don't want to go home in early May. Yeah, they don't have a timeout, so they got to go the length of the floor. Jokic makes the first. So what's Houston going to do here? I wonder if we see something similar to what the Clippers did to get Harden to look in the past, like some sort of down the floor pass to Şengün, who then will pitch it back to someone trailing the play. Is Şengün going to run? Yep, Şengün's down the floor. They should inbound to Şengün and then have KD trail the play. Ooh, man, what a game, guys! Wow, very very interesting game, guys. Portland's up 6 on the late in the game against Golden State. I'm just gonna quickly kind of give my 2 cents on the game in the big picture, like we usually do. Again, for those of you guys whoever missed one of these, I've been just kind of going like 10 minutes at the end where I just kind of give you guys my, so to speak, instant reaction, so that especially on these like weekend ones when we're doing like Friday, Saturday, you'll have an opportunity to kind of get a breakdown that I won't give on the show because obviously we're not doing an episode of Hoops Tonight until Monday. And I'll try to do a better job of announcing that at the top of our actual Hoops Tonight shows for you guys too. But um, obviously, I had my eye on this game for several reasons. There's the initial piece of it being the rebounding matchup, right? Like, there's a lot of interesting basketball dynamics. Like, you have this excellent defensive rebounding team versus an excellent offensive rebounding team. You've got a team that has this supremely gifted number one in Nikola Jokic, who might be the best player in the world, versus a team that got 2 second tier superstars that have been playing as a duo in a way that can be every bit as impactful um, as one of those singular top end type of stars, right? And it's just a lot of interesting stuff. But ultimately, what it is it was a matchup of 2 of our top tier contenders coming into the season. I thought it was going to be Houston, Oklahoma City, and Denver as my top tier contender those 3 teams. But after the Fred VanVleet injury, I ended up dropping Houston pretty far down. I thought the lack of ball handling was going to be a major issue, and could not have been more wrong about that. Uh, Houston has caused a lot of problems for teams with their offensive rebounding, and have kind of showed a dynamic that has made them look very much like a top tier contender. So coming into this game, I viewed them very firmly in that tier. By the way, I have the Nerd Sesh guys coming on Monday. I don't think we're running this episode until Friday, so keep an eye on the feeds next Friday for this. But I'm going to do my first contender rankings of the regular season. The last time we did it was like early October, before the start of even the start of preseason games. But we'll be doing a contender rankings with the Nerd Sesh guys next week. Again, that should most likely be airing on Friday, although I'm recording it on Monday. So anyway, I view this as a matchup between those top tier teams, right? One of the things that Houston's done to make themselves so difficult to guard is by having Steven Adams out there. But even if it's not Steven Adams, you saw Jabari Smith and Amen Thompson do a lot of this type of damage in tonight's game. But essentially, what they do is they space the floor with their rebounding every bit as much as they space the floor with their ability to knock down shots or drive closeouts. A lot of times we think of spacing as a very simple concept. Like, if you send a second defender, can I beat you in a vertical spacing window, meaning as a cutter along the baseline, or in front of the rim, or in a spacing, like a traditional spacing window, as in like kicking out to you to hit some sort of shot over the top, whether it's like a catch and shoot three, or Hartenstein shooting a little left-handed floater in the lane. Like, that's what we think of as the kind of traditional spacing concept, right? But for Houston, their spacing concept is very much, to be clear, they do some of that other stuff too. Like, they operate a lot in the vertical spacing window with the Amen Thompson. They have been knocking down threes at a kind of a crazy high rate relative to their on paper talent. But the extra layer to their spacing that they've brought to the equation is their offensive rebounding. And so if you bring your big, say you like what Jokic did tonight, for example, consistently showing at the level, like showing help on drives, when you use your big to help, which is a totally traditional basketball concept, because your big can be a rim protector, right? Like, your big can actually cause problems. If you have a guard helping a lot of times around the basket, the offensive player is just going to go right over the top of them or go right through them, right? So you use your big to help. And as soon as you use your big to help, you've deployed your best defensive rebounding weapon out of the paint to deal with the situation. And so now Houston's feasting. Steven Adams grabbing rebounds. Okay, you have guards coming in off the weak side and sandwich rebounding on Steven Adams. Well, now I've got a big advantage for an Amen Thompson or for a Jabari Smith to come in and get an offensive rebound. That's how they do damage. And so the very first takeaway that I had, especially is in the first half of this game, I thought that the Nuggets just did a really good job, specifically Nikola Jokic, of consistently showing, but then recovering and getting his getting his body back in front of Houston's bigger rebounders. So Denver held up really well on the offensive glass in the first half. Now, where Houston caused problems in the second half, a little bit less Steven Adams, a little bit more situations where they're faster. And then we ended up seeing, instead of Steven Adams really doing damage, like we've seen with different versions of Houston where they lean into that lineup more, we saw Amen Thompson beating Jamal Murray along the baseline for offensive rebounds. We saw Jabari Smith do some damage on the offensive glass when Jokic would step out, right? We also saw them start to do some damage to Jokic in ball screens by pulling him out to the level and pitching it over the top to Şengün, and Şengün did some work in the middle of the floor. But they were able to get the key stops, right? We had the big one where Jamal Murray got the deflection on the pass. So Jokic shows, Şengün rolls, pass over the top. Jamal Murray gets into that baseline passing window and gets the deflection on the pass to Amen Thompson. That gives them the stop, right? The other stop, Şengün catches on the roll. Jokic is behind the play. He spins into that super aggressive move over his left shoulder to the right-handed scoop shot. In comes flying Peyton Watson and blocks it off the glass. So an action that they had really struggled to guard, that two-man game with Şengün and Kevin Durant, instead of switching, which is what a lot of teams have done, they brought Jokic to the level and they were able to get a couple of stops with their rotations on the backside late. And by the way, that's kind of more or less been the story of the Denver Nuggets over the course of their successful era here in the last half decade. They've always done a really good job of pulling Jokic up to the level, but in those 4-on-3s that ensue on the backside, they've always just done a good job rotating out of it. That's been the story of the Denver Nuggets for as long as we've known them in this era. They've been very good at rotating out of their Jokic at the level coverages, got 2 big stops late. Then on the other end of the floor, just timely buckets, right? Like Jamal Murray hits like a tough little leaner along that left lane line, right? The Jamal, that little stack pick and roll action they ran where Cam Johnson relocates to the top, Jokic is rolling. This is where Jamal got that left-handed layup, key bucket. What happened on that play? If you watch Alperen Şengün, who would traditionally be in like a drop coverage, he ends up he would traditionally be in a drop coverage, and he ends up lingering too long with Nikola Jokic out there by the like short roll area, and that opened up the window where there was no rim protection, and Jamal Murray gets in there and gets a left-handed layup. So lots of interesting kind of big picture things to dive into here. On the offensive end of the floor, we saw a lot more of the two-man game from Jokic and Murray than post-ups, and I think part of that was the fact that Jokic could post up Şengün, but ultimately with the size for Houston, he wanted to drag them a little bit further out to the perimeter rather than operating more out of the post. We saw Jamal Murray struggle a bit with Amen Thompson at times, but able to make the key buckets late when he needed to. Key jump shot slate. Cam Johnson, a guy that, again, has gotten off to a pretty rough start this year. Previous couple of games, it actually had a couple of big scoring nights. Hits one of the biggest shots of the game, one pass away off of Jokic on a post up on the left wing. That was a huge shot from Cam Johnson in that game. And then, the Denver bench, they got off to a really rough start in their first half shift, and they ended up in some trouble there, blowing most of the lead. But right before the end of that run, they got 4 points back and just got the lead back to, I think, 11. I think it pushed it back to 11 before Nikola came back. It was either 11 or 9, but just kind of like removed some of the stink from that rough bench shift, and then a much better bench shift in the second half. So ultimately for Denver, it was holding up on the offensive glass in the first half, getting the key stops in the second half. They removed Kevin Durant from the equation as a scorer by basically just pulling Jokic up to the level and turning it more into a 4-on-3 type of game. And while they gave up some buckets there, for the most part, they were able to get the stops that they needed late in the game. And then the key buckets late, the Jamal Murray little lane line jump shot, the Jamal Murray little left-handed scoop shot out of the stack action that they ran, and then the Cam Johnson 3 off of the left wing. So really nice win from Denver. Some big picture issues for Houston. We saw a lot more of the offensive cold spells that we anticipated with this team that never really had happened to this point in the season for whatever reason. They just shot the ball so well and done so well on the offensive glass. And I think specifically what Denver kind of showed is that, like, if you can be big on the glass for stretches, and again, Houston did some damage on the offensive glass in the second half, but like, if you can be big on the glass and keep the ball in front, you can cause them to cool down. Nikola Jokic had some huge defensive possessions late in two-man game sequences where Amen Thompson was driving, where he walled up, took that bump from Amen Thompson right center in his chest with good verticality, so it wasn't a foul. He was able to get some key stops on Amen Thompson late in the game, right? So that's something to keep an eye on for Houston in the big picture. Like, because of that size for Denver on the interior and the size of in the form of Nikola Jokic, who all night long just did such a good job of getting up to the level, but then getting back to the rim as much as he could when they were in rotation. It just kept Şengün away from some of those easier attempts right around the basket. And as a team, they just rotated so well on the back line and ended up getting the job done. A couple other notes on Houston. Again, we saw them ultimately end up bailing on. They didn't go to the Steven Adams lineup as much. The Adams and Şengün lineup. A couple of really encouraging performances from their younger guys, right? Like, as frustrating as Kevin Durant was tonight and Alperen Şengün. Let me pull the numbers so that we actually have them. So Kevin Durant 5 for 14 for 13 points. And Alperen Şengün 6 for 15 for 14 points. So 27 points on 29 shots with 6 turnovers to 8 assists for the core Rocket stars, but really encouraging performances from all their young guys. Amen Thompson, 22 tonight. Jabari Smith, 21 tonight. Jabari missed a lot of shots, especially around the rim, but 21 hitting some key catch and shoot threes. I thought he was a monster on the glass all night. Tonight he had 4 offensive rebounds. And then Reed Shepherd, some really impressive drop coverage shot making in the first half. And then that kind of turned into more off ball reps where he was hitting catch and shoot threes to pay off some of Houston's advantage sequences. So, again, for that, this is like a problem for KD and Şengün to solve. How do you flip the script here? Your young guys did a lot of damage off the attention that your stars were drawing. Your stars just have to find a way to be a little bit more efficient than they were. Let me quick check team stats, make sure there's not any other major indicator that we're missing here. Turnovers relatively even, 15 for Denver, 16 for Houston. Um, we have offensive rebounds. Houston finished with 17. I think most of those ended up being in the second half. Denver had 11 of their own. They did their own damage on the offensive glass. Fast break points, 17 to 17. So a lot of like the key margins were even. Denver got to the free throw line a few more times, 27 to 20, but a lot of the margins were even. So it pretty much came down to the ability to make shots. Denver was 53% from the field. Houston was 44% from the field. That's your difference in the game. Both teams were in the high 30s from three. Again, a lot of the key margin indicators were pretty even. But yeah, really impressive win for Denver. Again, 12-3 to start the season with another kind of like signature type of win for them. Really nice work from them to start the season. For Houston, you're still a work in progress. Your young guys look great. Offense really stalled out though against a big front line that kept you positioned between them and the rim. Why don't we I'll take like 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll call it a day. Any more questions, guys? Two or three questions, guys, if you want. Keep an eye on the chat. Let me scroll up a little bit. Şengün was minus 16 tonight. Yeah, he had a rough game. He got outplayed by Jokic pretty substantially tonight. Joe Sample says, I just got here. Did you talk at all about the ticky-tack foul calls both ways? I complained about this during the broadcast, but I did think it was an over-officiated game. How do the Nuggets play without Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown? They've got this is the advantage of the depth, right? It's going to test their depth, but Peyton Watson's going to get his opportunities, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to get a lot more minutes with the starters. Coming into the night tonight, the Nuggets had over a 130 offensive rating when Tim Hardaway Jr. was on the floor with Nikola Jokic. So some really encouraging stuff there. Jokic defense today. That's a good one. I talked about this earlier. This will be the last one, and we'll call it a night. I talked about this earlier, but again, with Nikola Jokic, it was just the consistent showing up at the level and consistent rotating back to the rim to both help on last-minute rim contests, but also to grab key contested defensive rebounds. Stafford says, what's going on with Cam Johnson? I thought he was fine on defense, and then he made one of the biggest shots of the game there off the left wing. Wasn't his best statistical game, but he's coming off of 2 really nice statistical games. I still think that Cam Johnson's gaining some real momentum. Next playback stream is going to be Tuesday night, which I think is Clippers at Lakers. So keep an eye on. I'll tweet out the link when we get a little bit closer, but that one will be going on Tuesday night. We will be back Monday with our typical kind of power rankings game reaction. Just give you guys some schedule for next week. We're doing that. And then Tuesday game reaction. Tuesday night, again, for Lakers Clippers. I'll have an instant reaction at the tail end of that show that Jackson's going to clip and run on Wednesday. Taking Thanksgiving Day off. I'm going to do something different than I've never done before for Thanksgiving. I've always either done it with my family in Tucson, with my wife's family in Tucson, or with my family in Texas, because I've got a lot of extended family out there in Texas, but we don't have any family in Denver. So my wife and I are going to do something crazy this year. We're going to go skiing on Thanksgiving Day. That's the plan. So we're going to get up early and ski, and then we'll just go get dinner in one of the villages out there. But we're taking Thanksgiving off. Friday, again, I personally am taking the day off. But I'm pre-recording a show with the Nerd Sesh guys on our contender rankings that will run on Friday. Then I have another playback stream Friday night, which is Lakers versus the Mavericks, I believe. Then I also have Lakers Collective, which I'm recording with Trevor and Jovan. That's on Wednesday morning this week, so we're moving it forward one day just because of the holiday. And then Adam and I didn't get a chance to discuss All NBA, but I would imagine we'll still be going on Friday. But it's possible that we pre-record something like that. But I would imagine it'll air on Friday either way. My litter says, "Can you do a Knicks game?" I'm going to mix in. It'll be probably like a lot of Laker games, but it's also going to be a mix in of a lot of major national TV games like tonight, like Houston versus Denver. I will keep you guys posted as we go along. All right, as always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. I hope everybody has an incredible weekend, and I will see you guys on